The story begins in a harsh, snowy landscape known as the Floor 8 of the tower, the Wasteland of Death. A gathering of people stands ready, preparing for a massive battle. The atmosphere is cold and full of powerful energy from the surrounding dark structures. A group of armored soldiers, bundled up for the cold, stand waiting for orders. Kyojo Itsuki, Rank 6 Blue Zone Guild Master, stands firmly, his gaze serious as he faces the challenge ahead. The tension in the air builds as they await the arrival of the strongest members. Itsuki raises his hand, signaling his group, ready to face whatever comes next. Kyojo Itsuki speaks to the gathered crowd, stating their goal is to finally defeat the Guardian of Floor 8, something no one has ever managed. He reminds everyone that even though they are allied, they must not let their guard down, because failing here means Floor 9 remains a distant dream. The soldiers stand ready, weapons drawn, waiting for the signal to engage. Just then, another powerful group arrives on the scene, making Itsuki react with surprise. Itsuki murmurs that the one he was waiting for has finally shown up, referring to the legendary figure known as Blue Eyes. A group of formidable fighters, including a powerful-looking man in a mask, steps forward. The focus shifts as one set of boots steps firmly onto the icy ground. This masked figure is identified as Narukami Subaru, the rank 1 solo player and master of the Blue Eyes Guild. Subaru greets Itsuki, apologizing for being late, while Itsuki seems slightly taken aback by his arrival. Itsuki notes that Subaru is actually the first to arrive, and asks if even Bujin is coming this time, suggesting many are just looking for scraps. Itsuki continues, suggesting everyone is likely there only to grab the leftovers from the fight. Subaru responds cryptically to the mention of leftovers, suggesting that what they want is right here as he draws a weapon. As they shake hands, Subaru passes a small, glowing red item to Itsuki, making Itsuki look down at the strange relic with curiosity. The item is shown in detail, revealing its name and properties: an angel's blessing, legendary rank, requiring LV50 equipment, and it recovers half the fatigue when exhaustion reaches 100, with only one use remaining. Itsuki is clearly shocked by the item and declares he fully intends for the raid to succeed, but gives the item to Subaru just in case. Subaru questions Itsuki's motives, asking if he doesn't need the item himself, implying it is very valuable. Subaru then asks Itsuki about his future plans, suggesting he should come back to the Blue Eyes Guild once this battle ends. Subaru indicates that if Itsuki returns, he can give the item back then, showing the depth of their past connection. Itsuki pauses, looking at Subaru with a complicated expression, making Subaru reveal his intentions. Itsuki tells Subaru that if he doesn't plan on coming back, he can just keep the powerful item, showing trust or perhaps a test. Suddenly, a huge presence arrives, making Itsuki and Subaru react with alarm. Subaru quickly confirms the enemy is here, surprised it showed up so fast. The ground shakes as the enormous Floor 8 Guardian descends upon them. Itsuki shouts for everyone to get ready for the monster's attack. The massive Guardian monster is revealed, filling the screen with its terrifying presence. The beast is identified as the Venom Dragon Hydra, a creature with multiple heads ready to strike. One of the gathered fighters comments on how truly nasty this monster is. Subaru prepares himself, a dark energy swirling around him. Subaru declares that the monster will die today as lightning power fills his entire body, preparing for the onslaught. His power flares up with golden lightning energy as he grips his weapon, ready to strike. The Hydra's red eye snaps open in fury as Subaru makes his declaration. One of the Hydra's heads prepares to unleash a powerful poisonous breath attack. The fighters scramble as the Hydra attacks, and Itsuki seems caught off guard by the initial move. Subaru seems focused, ready to counter whatever comes next with his dark energy. The Hydra unleashes its chaotic power, while the fighters struggle to avoid the massive attack. Subaru moves through the chaos, his dark aura providing some cover as the allied forces scatter. A massive glowing strike, empowered by Subaru's lightning, slams into the monster. The force of the impact is overwhelming, depicted by intense streaks and strikes. Subaru is seen driving his weapon forward with all his enhanced strength. Subaru's golden lightning power clashes violently with the Hydra's icy, greenish energy. Someone shouts that a Hydra is using its breath attack and orders everyone to fall back, but Subaru stands his ground. Subaru calmly states there is no need for them to retreat as he prepares to take the full brunt of the attack. Itsuki, watching the masked Subaru face the attack, is amazed and comments that Subaru is just always so cool. The other guild members react to Subaru's incredible display, with one member admitting they were too slow to get the first hit in. A female warrior asks Subaru what he handed to Itsuki earlier, wanting to know what secret weapon was exchanged. Subaru simply tells her she will find out later and then asks if everyone is ready to begin the real fight. Subaru rallies the troops, telling them to let's slaughter that damn dragon and break through floor 8. Subaru, glowing with dark, golden energy, grips his sword, clearly prepared for a serious fight. The Hydra roars, its multiple heads snapping as the battle intensifies around them. The Alliance charges forward toward the massive Hydra, while Itsuki watches from behind, still holding back. Itsuki looks on with a slightly sad or resigned expression as the main assault begins. Itsuki remarks how overly friendly everyone is acting, then reveals he has already hidden their own forces as planned, suggesting a backup strategy. Subaru replies with an excellent, looking pleased with Itsuki's subtle preparation. Itsuki confirms they should begin their part of the plan now, and another member acknowledges the order with an understood. Itsuki wishes them good fortune in the battle as the energy begins to surge again. Subaru's expression tightens as the next wave of action starts. While a female mage holding his staff prepares her magic, the scene focuses on the intense action taking place around the gigantic beast. The Hydra lashes out with powerful icy energy, shaking the battlefield. The main group, including Subaru, engages the massive Hydra head-on, with chaotic energy swirling everywhere. Several members launch themselves through the air, using their skills to attack the dragon's armored form, dodging its massive ice blasts. More intense sound effects show the ongoing struggle against the powerful beast. The action continues with intense impact sounds echoing as fighters press their attacks. A dark-clad figure, likely one of Subaru's allies, dives down toward the Hydra's head. Someone yells at the diver for rushing in without warning, but the attacker responds that this is just how they always fight. The attacker, whose weapon is dripping with dark red liquid, seems to be dealing serious damage to the monster. The intensity of the attack seems to stun the monster, momentarily halting its massive body. Another powerful strike lands, this time from the white-haired ally, who hits the Hydra with ice magic. One of the other guild members cries out in frustration and challenges the aggressive attackers, asking who can deal more damage. The attacker who's struck with the red liquid responds, saying they will see who deals more damage as they press their attack against the beast's scales. The red-infused attack sinks deep into the Hydra's body. The Hydra recoils from the hit, blood spilling from its wound as another fighter strikes it. Subaru, seeing the chaos caused by his allies' aggressive moves, makes a deal. The loser buys dinner. The Hydra prepares another massive counterattack, shaking the ground. Subaru, with glowing blue eyes hidden behind his mask, prepares to meet the incoming attack head-on. As Subaru braces, someone murmurs an apology, suggesting a serious situation is unfolding. Subaru yells an apology to Chino, realizing the danger his reckless charge might put her in. Chino, the female mage, reassures him not to worry about her and tells everyone to just keep attacking. Chino unleashes a powerful, shimmering pink protective barrier that completely covers the area under attack. She firmly tells someone named Chino to leave the defense to her, though it seems she is speaking to herself or another person with the same name. Subaru looks surprised by Chino's sudden defense, asking if she thinks she can block this massive incoming attack too. The attack hits Chino's defense, causing a massive shockwave, and a close-up shows her eyes widen in shock as she starts bleeding from the mouth from the strain. Despite the brutal impact, a member of Itsuki's group, who was previously allied with Subaru, holds Chino from behind, stabbing her with a knife. The treacherous guild member declares that their arrogance is their own problem, while Subaru looks on in shock and whispers Chino's name. Subaru raises his glowing sword, his own dark energy surging as he realizes the betrayal. The traitor smiles menacingly, while the stabbed Chino is clearly falling. Subaru's glowing blue eye shows his intense focus and rage as he watches the betrayal unfold. Subaru says Itsuki's name, then the traitor smiles, looking down at the fallen Chino. The traitor warns Subaru that this is no time to be spacing out, implying Subaru needs to focus on the fight rather than the immediate betrayal happening nearby. Subaru looks back at Itsuki, utterly confused, asking why Itsuki is doing this. The story begins with a message appearing for every player. You have been chosen by the tower, and a command to keep climbing the tower to prepare for the end that will one day come. This very first message from the tower is shown to everyone, standing tall in space amidst many planets. People still wonder if this message is a trial or a blessing, as nobody knows who left it or why. Everyone must obey this unavoidable command, as they all aim for the tower's peak, which no one has ever reached. People from many different places like Earth, Runeterra, and others keep climbing the tower even now. A tense scene shows a man in armor next to a determined-looking young man as they look forward, reflecting on their hard-fought battle. They have just defeated the Floor 8 boss, the Venom Dragon Hydra, even though everyone said it was unbeatable. Despite defeating the monster, the victor looks down, thinking about those who didn't listen when told to run. The current situation shows the aftermath of a fight, with fallen comrades lying in the snow and a man with a sword in his chest. The man who was stabbed lets out a painful gasp, his eyes wide with shock and despair. Below this tragedy, a system notification states that the character is in a max power state, but his fatigue is extremely high. The system warns that if fatigue reaches 100, the user will die, even as people in the background praise Narukami Subaru, the Thunderlord. Subaru, the severely wounded man, looks up at Kyojo Itsuki, demanding to know why he did this. Kyojo replies that it has been 10 years, and he has been preparing for this day, saying it was the only way to defeat Subaru. Kyojo cruelly explains that he had to draw attention so that Subaru's precious blue eyes comrades wouldn't get in the way. He reveals that everything Subaru gave him tormented him, which is why he chose the world over him, declaring the end is near. Kyojo adds that he doesn't need to return something he was holding, as Blue Eyes is going down with Subaru, though Subaru won't be around to see it. Subaru, even knowing his life cannot be saved, refuses to simply lie down and die, activating a new ability. He notes he can only use this ability 4 more times, and there are 4 Blue Eyes members still alive, urging them to go after them. Hurry. The system flashes warnings. Fatigue has risen to 99, and the Thunderlord duration will be limited. Then, Thunderlord descends, creating a massive golden energy burst on the battlefield. Kyojo looks down at the powerful golden aura and comments that Subaru is stubborn until the very end, questioning what he hopes to get from him. He admits he doesn't know why Subaru went this far, but acknowledges Subaru is ready to die for it. Kyojo then declares that from this point on, no one is leaving without his permission. Someone yells, "Damn it if that's how it is," readying for an all-or-nothing move, but Subaru notes the distance is good, but his fatigue is the problem. Defeated enemy forces celebrate, thinking they killed Narukami Subaru, the monster. Kyojo steps forward, saying, "Subaru, you're it," and then, to think it would end this easily. Subaru retorts that Kyojo knows better than anyone that he is the one who wins in the end, offering condolences. Kyojo ironically mentions Archangel's blessing, suggesting Subaru's life could have been saved otherwise. The system interface shows Subaru's death and his final thoughts on the pathetic way he went out, noting he at least wanted to see Kyojo Itsuki die. Subaru thinks about the strange feeling of thinking about these things on the verge of death, wondering if he's stuck like this forever, which would be torture. Suddenly, a green energy appears, and Subaru is shocked as he realizes he can smell things again, exclaiming, "No way." He finds himself in a dark, grimy place, sitting in a trash can, looking at a pathetic status screen for Subaru Housui at level 1. He wonders what this pathetic status screen is, remembering the name Narukami Subaru, who died 20 years ago. Subaru uses the player kit's search function for Blue Eyes, and the results show information about the Blue Zone Guild and the hero Narukami Subaru. He realizes, so he wasn't dead, seeing Kyojo Itsuki's picture on the screen, who he thought was a friend. Subaru remembers Kyojo saying he was thinking of leaving Blue Eyes and asking Subaru to break the news to everyone, and he thought Kyojo was a friend. He recalls Kyojo's parting words, "You'll understand this reason someday," as Kyojo smiles faintly, holding a small object. Subaru remembers Kyojo promising, "Don't worry, even if I leave, I'll still be your shadow." Then, the scene flashes forward. A few years later, Kyojo founded a guild under a name they used as a joke. That name was Blue Zone, the shadow Kyojo spoke of, but surprisingly, Kyojo is still stuck on floor 9 of the tower. Subaru wonders if Kyojo hasn't done anything meaningful for 20 years, then sees a massive crowd at the Narukami Subaru Memorial Hall on his death anniversary. He sees the grand building built for him and wonders why people remember him, questioning who they are and for what purpose. The display explains that the guild that chose to remember him forever, Blue Zone, is the only guild left carrying on the noble spirit of the undefeated legend. Subaru, enraged, tells the holographic Kyojo to keep talking and saying things he doesn't mean, asking if killing him wasn't enough. He declares that if that is how it is, he will live up to their expectations too, shouting that Narukami Subaru and Blue Eyes will never return. But he follows up with a threat, "But just you wait, I'll rewrite it all from scratch." The scene shifts back to the battle. Subaru's fatigue is at 97, and he knows he can't drag the fight out longer as a Blue Eyes member attacks him. He grits his teeth, fatigue rising to 98 as another attack lands, causing him pain. The enemy fighter yells, "We did it, we killed Narukami Subaru." Subaru wonders, killed who, exactly? Amidst the golden energy surge, he unleashes his power, knocking out the surrounding enemies, and one screams as they fall under his overwhelming power. Subaru stands over a fallen enemy, his power radiating strongly as the enemy soldier barely clings to life. The remaining Blue Eyes members look shocked, wondering if they finally did it and calling him a monster. Kyojo says, "Subaru, your era implying it's over," but Subaru, still powered up, looks directly at him. Kyojo remarks, fatigue has risen to 99 and that the Thunderlord's duration will be limited as Subaru unleashes his final power. The system announces, Thunderlord descends as Subaru is enveloped in an explosive golden light. The shockwave throws everyone back and Kyojo looks down at the spot where Subaru was, surprised by the intensity. Kyojo says, "My condolences," and shows an item called Archangel's Blessing, saying Subaru's life could have been saved with it. Subaru's glowing eyes show that he knows he is the one who wins in the end, as Kyojo looks on. Kyojo smirks, stating, "I'm the one who wins in the end. My condolences," and activates the blessing item. Subaru, engulfed in golden light, thinks, "Wow, even I think I went out in a really pathetic way." He then thinks about Kyojo Itsuki, wishing he at least wanted to see him die, but notes the last lightning bolt should have hit him. Subaru finds it strange to think about such things on the verge of death and curses the thought of being stuck like this forever. Suddenly, a green energy touches him, and he is shocked to realize he can smell again, exclaiming, "What this smell?" He then realizes he can actually smell things, gasping, "No way," as he wakes up somewhere else. He is now sitting in a trash can in a grimy alley, surrounded by garbage bags and metal bars, wondering, is this hell? He looks at his own hands and body, noticing the difference, and then sees the player kit on the ground. He examines the player kit and thinks, right, if I use this before commanding a search, Blue Eyes. The results pop up on the holographic screen, displaying information about the Blue Zone Guild and the hero Narukami Subaru. Subaru is shocked and mutters, "No way, so he wasn't dead," seeing Kyojo Itsuki's picture on the screen. He recalls Kyojo Itsuki, realizing they weren't enemies from the start, and remembers Kyojo asking him to announce his departure from Blue Eyes. Subaru thought Kyojo was a friend, recalling Kyojo saying, "At the very least, that's what I thought of Itsuki," and promising, "You'll understand this reason someday." The scene shifts to a flashback where Subaru and Kyojo sit on a rooftop under the moon, and Kyojo promises to remain his shadow even if he leaves. The narration moves to a few years later, where Kyojo founded the Blue Zone Guild, the joke name they once shared. Subaru wonders why Kyojo is still stuck on floor 9 of the tower after 20 years, as he looks at an image of the Narukami Subaru Memorial Hall. He sees people paying respects on his death anniversary, feelings that haven't faded even after 20 years, and wonders what the point of remembering him is. Subaru looks around the grand hall, feeling a wave of disbelief. "I can't believe this," as he sees the people gathering. He sees the holographic projection of Kyojo Itsuki standing before him, now looking sophisticated in a suit. The projection states that Narukami Subaru and Blue Eyes are gone now, but Blue Zone remains, carrying on their noble spirit. Subaru, clenching his fists, tells the projection to keep talking about all the crap he doesn't even mean. He yells, "Wasn't killing me enough for you?" and declares, "Fine then, I'll live up to your expectations too." The projection continues, stating that Narukami Subaru and Blue Eyes will never return, but just you wait. We will never forget them. As the projection fades, Subaru focuses his angry, glowing eyes on the remaining memory, concluding that memory. Finally, he states with fierce determination, "I'll rewrite it all from scratch." The character felt a strong determination, vowing to never let something bad happen again. He was focused on the second chance, promising himself not to waste a single moment of it. After the initial impact, he looked up, slightly startled, standing firmly in the aftermath of the collision. Someone who had fallen down groaned, and another person immediately checked on them, asking if they were okay. The one who fell looked confused, hearing the concern directed at them. Suddenly, the focus shifted to the person whose mask had been knocked off in the bump. The fallen person apologized profusely, checking if anyone was hurt, as a man called out for Manhwa. The others tried to reassure everyone, saying it was just a small bump, and asked if everyone was all right. The main character was shocked to see the familiar masked figures present, realizing who they were. He paused, sweating slightly, as the realization of seeing these people hit him hard. He wondered what was happening, his eyes widening in shock. The area was filled with many people wearing strange, glowing masks, observing the scene. The main character, still in his tank top, stood amidst the masked crowd, while someone knelt nearby. As the memory of the confrontation faded, a dark thought crossed his mind about what was going on. The scene went completely dark for a moment. A sinister voice spoke about how a shame things ended this way and not to be too sad, even if one dies. The image showed a menacing figure smiling, telling the person they would still be remembered as a hero. The focus returned to the main character, who looked serious as he observed the people around him. He finally understood what someone named Kyojo meant in the past, his eyes flashing with intensity as he thought of Kyojo. He walked forward, leaving the group behind, his expression hardened. The masked group stood silently, watching him go. The scene shifted to a memorial with many lit candles and flowers placed below a portrait of a masked man. The main character thought about the elaborate display, wondering if all this ceremony was necessary. He felt a surge of disbelief, questioning if this whole event was just a way for someone to take credit for Blue Eye's achievements. A bright blue light emanated from the flowers, catching his attention. The crowd reacted with surprise and movement as the tension rose around him. Someone shouted at the main character, demanding to know what he thought he was doing. He pushed forward aggressively, yelling for people to get back in line. Ignoring the commotion, the character knelt down by the memorial and reached out toward the flowers. His hand touched the flowers, causing a bright blue energy to flare up around them. He looked up, shocked, recognizing someone as a blue aura surrounded him. He clearly recognized the person he was holding the glowing flower towards, naming him Asajiri Shigeru. The scene changed to two people walking away from the memorial, one in a dark cloak remarking that they got through the ritual again this year. Cloaked figure, looking powerful, stood on the steps as the other one walked down. The first cloaked person commented that the other was too careless, noting they almost ran into the blue zone. The second person, with long white hair, questioned the need to travel so far every year just for a memorial. The white-haired man hoped that Subaru might notice the flowers he left behind. The first cloaked person asked if the others still believed Subaru was alive, admitting they never actually saw it happen. The white-haired man replied with hope, thinking that as long as they were alive, they could meet again, as a blue light surrounded his hand. The first cloaked person sighed, worried that Kyojo would find them before they found Subaru, as they looked down at the ground. The first cloaked person argued that Kyojo would never let them be hunted for 20 years silently, while the white-haired man smiled confidently. The white-haired man looked down, unconcerned by the other's panic, as the first cloaked figure stood angrily on the terrace above. The two figures stood against a beautiful, dramatic sunset sky filled with birds flying. The scene focused on the setting sun through the trees, before switching to a close-up of someone sweating and breathing heavily. The character, still breathing hard, wondered if the person he was thinking about was really alive. He looked down, exhausted in the forest setting, still questioning if Shigeru was truly alive. He clutched the glowing, crystalline flower, calling out Shigeru's name. He found himself in a dimly lit, humble room, realizing this must have been the room Subaru used, noting it was a bit shabby. Sitting on the bed, he looked at a device and stated that he searched for blue eyes but found nothing. He held up the device, looking seriously at the information displayed on its screen. He firmly stated that he knew Shigeru was alive, even though he was hiding. He sat on the edge of the bed, holding his head in despair, thinking about the 20 years that had passed. He clenched his jaw, concluding that Shigeru must be hiding because Kyojo would never let anyone who knew the truth live. He wondered if Shigeru was the only one left alive from their past conflict. He thought about the past battle, questioning if the other four he pushed away survived, admitting he didn't know. He realized that as long as Kyojo was still around, contacting anyone was too risky, especially since he currently had no power. He leaned against the window frame, looking serious, concluding he needed to regain his strength first. He looked at the glowing flower on the table, setting his first goal to get his old strength back. He looked up with determination, raising his hands as he focused on regaining his former power. He recalled Subaru Hostele's memories, preparing himself for what was coming. He gripped the sword firmly, his eyes glowing as he prepared for the next step, which was 2 days away. He knew the qualification tutorial for new players would start soon, and as long as they were alive, a reunion was possible. He held the sword, his intense gaze fixed on it, reaffirming his goal to meet them again. He focused on the certainty of reuniting with them if they were still alive. The view then showed the massive tutorial test area, a grand building with many arches. The courtyard of the area showed the aftermath of a fight, with bodies and bloodstains on the ground. A bald man with a white mustache, the Proctor Huger, looked down with a grim expression. Proctor Huger was identified, while a battered, bloodied participant stood nearby, catching his breath. Huger noted that the participant, despite barely succeeding, cleared the first stage. Huger then asked the bloody participant if he wanted to challenge the next step. The participant reacted in shock and refusal, yelling that he couldn't possibly beat 3 enemies at once. The system interface explained that challenging the next step adds 1 more goblin, but clearing higher steps grants extra rewards. The participant was distraught, refusing to continue, while Huger scolded him not to yell, as it hurt his head. Huger warned the participant that he could still fail them, but the participant insisted he passed the first part, right? Huger confirmed he passed, calling it just another typical tutorial, while looking at the defeated goblins. Huger grumbled, expressing disbelief that they had to let someone so pathetic move on, mentioning Reinhardt's son, Isaac. Huger felt that apart from Isaac, who reached step 20, no one else in this batch was worth anything, noting the low quality of the youth. Huger muttered, "Good grief," looking down at his device, seemingly noticing something on the screen. He focused on the information on his device, stepping forward slightly as the main character approached, sword in hand. Huger noted that the name he saw on the screen looked like it would bring trouble. He added that trouble would only come if the person actually passed the test as he looked toward the main character. The main character, now dressed in darker clothes and holding his sword, agreed to proceed, telling the proctor not to waste his time. The system announced that 2 goblins would appear, and the tutorial officially started. The screen instructed the participant to defeat the goblins, and the main character prepared to begin. With incredible speed, the main character moved, leaving streaks of blue energy and blood splatter everywhere, shocking the proctor. The proctor blinked, wondering what he just saw move so fast. He looked down at the swiftly moving figure, asking himself what just flashed past. The main character moved through the enemies with overwhelming speed, leaving the proctor staring in disbelief at the aftermath of the rapid strikes. The character, now looking confident and having a slight smile, thought about how he spent the last 2 days testing his new body. He reflected that the body he woke up in was actually quite good, showing a quick, decisive move against an enemy. He considered that stat-wise, this body had potential, something Subaru Hosoi never managed to use, as he looked at the system prompt asking to continue. Firmly replied, of course, instructing the proctor to move things along quickly. Proctor Huger looked completely stunned and terrified, with lightning-like energy surrounding him, seeing what was happening. The proctor was speechless, staring at a goblin head that had just been severed at his feet. The proctor stood frozen as the main character cleared the area, with defeated goblins scattered around. The remaining goblins looked terrified, screaming, "What on earth is happening?" The main character stood ready, his hand gripping the sword, as the proctor observed that this was more than just random swinging. The proctor realized the fighter was thinking 2 or 3 moves ahead, displaying an impossible level of combat skill. The close-up showed the sword cutting through another enemy, leaving trails of blood. The inner thought stated that this level of skill wasn't just being good with a sword, as the main character looked up with a knowing smirk. He thought that even he couldn't move like that, realizing this combat ability was impossible unless he was Narukami Subaru Reborn. Proctor Huger, utterly shocked, yelled that this level of combat ability was impossible unless he was Narukami Subaru Reborn. The main character swiftly executed another clean kill on a goblin. Blood splattered dramatically as the character turned, having finished the fight, while the proctor watched in horror. The system declared step 49 cleared and asked if he wanted to challenge the final boss as the character looked up with burning purple eyes. Despite the intensity, he seemed determined and said, "Let's give it a try." He stood firm on the battlefield, ready for the next challenge, with massive impact effects surrounding him. The ground shook violently with intense blue energy as the final boss seemed to appear. The main character stood ready, facing a giant, dark entity emerging from the ground. The proctor panicked, shouting that no matter what, he was not Narukami Subaru. Huger screamed desperately for him to back out immediately if he valued his life. A massive, dark goblin-like final boss appeared, ready to fight, as the main character remained unfazed. The character took a resolute step forward, his sword glowing, ready to face the final challenge. The Goblin King has suddenly appeared in the trial area. The system announces that sacrifices up to step 49 have been detected, and now the Goblin King will appear. An old man shouts, telling everyone to give up before it is too late, warning that fighting the Goblin King is suicide and a death mission. The protagonist stands firm as the other person yells about the mission being a suicide run. The old man shouts a warning not to be greedy, reminding them that they cannot beat a gap in stats no matter how skilled they are. The main character thinks to himself that he knows he cannot win with his current stats and probably cannot deal real damage to the boss. Even knowing this, he still holds his weapon tightly, showing his resolve. refuses to back down and stares intensely at the threat before him. He prepares to throw something, glowing with blue energy. His dropped sword lies in the blood-soaked ground as the action builds up. The old man panics, shouting why the protagonist dropped his weapon and if he has finally lost his mind. The old man exclaims that he knew something was wrong with the protagonist from the beginning, just as the Goblin King attacks. The massive Goblin King looms over the protagonist, who stands calmly amidst the fallen goblins. The protagonist sends his thrown weapon flying towards the massive monster. Goblin King is surprised as the thrown object hits him, making him cry out in pain. The Goblin King looks confused after being hit by the unexpected attack. The protagonist crouches down near the defeated small goblins, picking up something while the Goblin King watches. The protagonist smiles and asks if the Goblin King is surprised, holding up small throwing blades glowing with energy. He challenges the Goblin King to a bet, who will win first, the Goblin King taking him down or him turning the Goblin King into a pinkshin. The protagonist's eyes glow with fierce determination as he sets up the bet. A drop of liquid energy falls from the throwing blade. He executes a powerful throw with his energy-infused blade. The protagonist smiles, seemingly confident in his move. The Goblin King roars as the invisible force of the attack hits him hard, causing blood to spray. The force of the impact is visualized by streaking lines and falling blood. The thrown projectiles, now energized with blue energy, strike the Goblin King. As the Goblin King is hit, the protagonist moves low to the ground, dodging the immediate threat. The Goblin King swings his huge axe down in response to the attack. The protagonist weaves under the mighty swing, propelled by blue energy. The protagonist looks up, focused, as the giant orc's attack narrowly misses him. His determined gaze shows he is ready for the next move. He prepares a powerful arc with his sword in the forest setting outside the arena. The thrown weapon hits a target with perfect precision, striking the bullseye on a tree. The protagonist greets Reincarnaed, who appears beside him, telling him he cannot throw like that. Reincarnaed smiles teasingly while holding one of the throwing implements. She explains that anything thrown can become a precise throwing blade if one knows its center of gravity. Reincarnaed demonstrates the perfect throw, making the object fly straight and true. The thrown object hits the center of the target perfectly. The Goblin King reacts in pain and shock from the precise hit. The force of the successful throw causes a massive reaction on the monster. The Goblin King lets out a final yell as he falls, and the protagonist remembers Reincarnaed's lesson: a nice power is proportional to its spin, and hesitation hurts accuracy. He stands over the fallen Goblin King, recalling Reincarnaed's teachings, which covered more than just swordsmanship. He reflects that Reincarnaed taught him how to drive hidden weapons exactly where he aimed. The fight ends, and the system announces the Goblin King is defeated, and step 50 of the tutorial is cleared for the first time. The protagonist wonders if this is still just the tutorial and comments that they shouldn't throw monsters like that in the practice phase. System notifications pop up: level identified, credits acquired, and achievement points acquired. The tutorial shop has been generated and can only be used in the tutorial stage. The protagonist checks his current achievement points, which are 2,295p, and notes this is his first time seeing this shop. He opens the shop interface and sees cheap items like potions, ropes, and banners. He observes that prices range from 5 to 200 points, leaving him with a lot of points left over. Notices something shocking: a sword costing 1,000 points. This sword is the nameless cursed sword, a rare weapon described as a failed work of Kinder. He is tempted by the cursed sword but sees another option: the holy sword Miranda, which costs 1,400 points and reduces fatigue while improving endurance. He weighs his options: raw power from the cursed sword versus safety with the holy sword, but neither feels exactly right. He understands that how he spends these first points is very crucial, so he needs to choose carefully. He scrolls down further and finds a skill called Wedge of Greed for 1,999 points. This skill reduces the side effects of other skills and items, and its effectiveness increases with rank and level. The protagonist realizes he has never seen a skill with such an effect. He thinks that if the skill reduces side effects, it might even counteract the debuffs from his lightning. He decides to purchase both the Wedge of Greed skill and the nameless cursed sword. He feels this combination is worth testing out. He confirms that the skill and the cursed sword seem to work very well together. He thinks it is better to use the cursed sword from the start rather than wasting a skill slot. The proctor, Huger, acknowledges that choosing the cursed sword and that specific skill was a good choice due to their high compatibility. However, Huger still cannot understand the logic behind choosing that specific, unproven skill. Hyuger questions why he chose a skill that isn't proven to be useful or efficient. The protagonist asks if Hyuger wants him to explain all that logic to him. Hyuger is slightly annoyed but decides to let the protagonist's rudeness slide because it is right after the exam, stating he had no special reason for his choices. The old proctor mutters to himself that does not know Sprat ended up becoming a proctor. A younger man approaches Hyuger, holding a notebook, excitedly asking for an autograph because he is a huge fan. Hyuger refuses, saying he doesn't have anything like that. The young fan insists, asking at least for his name to be written down. Hyuger comments that times have changed, and youngsters get carried away too easily, even joking about the fan's hairline. He tells the fan to stick to keeping the exam results confidential and that he won't answer anything else. The young fan gets angry, saying Hyuger is throwing around flimsy internet wisdom like it is a comeback. Hyuger then challenges the fan, saying he will drill proper manners into him from the ground up and asks if he is interested in joining the Chivalry Guild. The protagonist dismisses the offer immediately, saying not interested. The proctor tries to stop him, saying it's rare for a proctor to scout someone personally. The protagonist ignores him and instead sees a system prompt asking if he wants to move to floor 2. He simply says move. Hyuger yells for him to wait and stop, but it is too late. Hyuger admits honestly that he misjudged the protagonist. The protagonist stands in a bright, bustling marketplace, noting that he is back in the land of beginnings. He reflects that he has a second chance now, holding onto an opportunity no one usually gets. Because he has been through this once, he knows he has to handle everything better than before. He looks up at the bright sky and surrounding buildings, determined to succeed for his comrades. The scene shifts to a campfire where his former comrades are waiting for him. He remembers them, and the final thought is about avenging the brutal and they all met. The man enters a private training room meant for one person to practice new skills or test equipment. The desk attendant asks which floor he came from, suggesting training room 1 for regular players since he just came up. The attendant explains that room 1 has straw dummies and everything a regular player needs. The main character ignores the advice and decides he will use training room number 5 instead. The attendant warns him that he should take room 1 for his own good, or he will waste his money. The man says thanks for the concern and asks for 30 minutes, but the attendant warns him there are no refunds even if he leaves early, acting like he is some drama star. He walks away, holding his device, noting his remaining credits are 10,050 C. He recalls that the higher the room number, the harder the training gets, realizing why people look down on newbies with bad gear. The scene quickly shows other players struggling in rooms 1, 2, and 3, emphasizing the difficulty of higher-numbered rooms. The intense struggle in the rooms continues. The man grips a door handle and opens the door to his chosen training room. He steps into a desolate, ancient-looking area, ready to begin his training. He quickly draws a weapon, a dark, ornate dagger, preparing for what's next. The nameless cursed sword recognizes him as his user, indicated by a system message. Immediately, all his stats start increasing, but the sword also begins draining his stamina and willpower. He grits his teeth in pain as the sword's corruption tries to take hold, but his skill, Wedge of Greed, resists it. The system confirms that some of his stamina and willpower are being consumed by the sword. Wedge of Greed fails to fully resist the sword, causing his fatigue to increase slightly. He acknowledges that this power is too much for a level 1, but he pushes for just a little more as the sword keeps absorbing his stamina. As stamina is drained, all stats increase even more, making him groan in effort. He realizes this is his current limit, but it is what he expected. After using 10,000 credits, the skill level of Wedge of Greed increases and he grips the powerful cursed sword. The power fades and the man collapses, exhausted, as the training finishes. The system explains that Wedge of Greed rank E skill reduces side effects from skills and lowers the cost to level up. It shows that Wedge of Greed LV.2 is successfully resisting the nameless cursed sword, causing a powerful shockwave upon impact. The nameless cursed sword continues to absorb his stamina, causing his stats to increase even further while he struggles to hold on. His stats increase significantly due to the successful drain. He manages to maintain control, whispering success. He follows up with a powerful strike, showing the result of the stat boost. He yells, ready to test the limits of his newfound strength with the cursed sword. The strike hits something heavy with immense force. Everything goes dark for a moment. Back at the counter, the attendant is dozing off, but he jolts awake. The attendant looks up, confused and suddenly alert. He wonders if he is still dreaming or if this is a hallucination, seeing a figure at the door. He sees a figure covered in what looks like blood coming out of the training room door. Bloodstains mark the floor leading from the training room entrance. The attendant asks if that is the kid who went into room number 5, noting that it feels like less than 10 minutes have passed. He rushes to the door of room 5, startled. He calls out to the dreamer boy, asking if he is still inside. He shouts in shock at what he sees when the door opens. The attendant stares in disbelief at the scene inside room 5, which is completely destroyed, with bodies and objects scattered everywhere. Broken weapons and debris litter the heavily damaged training area. He exclaims in shock about what happened inside. The main character, looking messy, stumbles out, groaning, and wonders how long he was unconscious. He stretches his stiff body while on what looks like a bed or resting area. He is relieved it was just a failed cursed sword, noting the physical strain is much less than it could have been. He reflects that thanks to the sword's power, he managed to draw out its full potential, which his normal stats wouldn't allow. His current stats are displayed: level 10, strength 17, agility 17, vitality 46, focus 18, magic 0. He thinks that normally, holding the cursed sword would be difficult enough, let alone using its power. He confirms the excellent synergy between his skill, Wedge of Greed, and the cursed sword. He smiles, thinking this synergy should also work well with his lightning abilities. He concludes that from now on, the main focus will be on increasing his skill level, but he notes he only has 50 credits and needs 2,000 for the next level of Wedge of Greed. He wonders if this means he was always broke, reflecting on how far he has fallen having to worry about every single credit. He accepts his situation, thinking he can't complain since he died once, and then starts greeting his viewers as if he is live streaming. He greets his audience, saying he is on an expedition on floor 2, making it nostalgic, and announces today's stream theme: how much for trendy youth gear. He shows a notification that he received 100 credits from a viewer, feeling nostalgic, and then a massive 1,000 credit donation from someone named Alexander. He yells thanks for the huge donation, while the streamer who is just talking is suddenly splashed with a drink by someone standing behind him. The shocked streamer exclaims thanks, while someone else comments on the streamer's sanity. The main character looks on from a distance as the commotion happens, focusing on the streamer. He checks his holographic screen, thinking about how players earn points in this PvP era and how many are streaming. He asks if that loud person is live streaming, where people throw money at them, realizing that's what the other guy was doing earlier. Suddenly, the person who splashed the drink approaches him, addressing him as Subaru and noting he made it up to this floor too. The approaching man, dressed richly, looks down at Subaru, who is holding his cracked screen. The man asks if Subaru is staying around, and Subaru instinctively feels his body recoiling from him. Subaru thinks to himself that the two must not have had a good relationship in the past. The approaching man calls Subaru out for ignoring him, but Subaru replies that he was just talking to himself. The approaching man, with a dark smirk, says it's surprising that trash like him cleared the tutorial, saying he thought the goblins would have killed him. Subaru remembers this person and asks why he is doing this to him. The man harshly replies it's because Subaru is trash, saying he hated him from the moment he heard his name. He continues to berate Subaru, saying he couldn't even do the one thing he was told, accusing him of trying to show off being an airheaded orphan. In a flashback or memory, a younger, tearful Subaru cries out that the credits Isaac gave him weren't enough. Isaac screams at the younger Subaru, calling him a piece of trash, and tells him that a certain place is his home now, from which he will never get out. Isaac warns him about the consequences if he crawls out and gets caught. Back in the present, Subaru reflects on Isaac letting him get pushed around, calling him an idiot, and then comments that talking made him thirsty, so he's going for a drink. Isaac tells him to take his time, then asks him to grab coffee and snacks on his way back. Isaac, annoyed, calls Subaru stubborn and asks why he is staring wide-eyed and talking back. He then asks Subaru if he's swapped souls with someone. Subaru bluntly replies that he doesn't have any credits and tells Isaac to buy his own coffee. Isaac then sharply tells Subaru to sit, his eyes showing a dangerous look. Isaac states he doesn't have time to take care of Subaru's revenge, unless it gets in the way of his own revenge, which would then be a problem. He asks Subaru if he is that eager to see what happens to runaway trash. Subaru stares back intensely, then tells Isaac to let go, for his own good. Isaac grabs Subaru's jacket aggressively, his eyes glowing red with anger, and challenges him about seeing what happens to runaway trash. Subaru warns him to let go for his own safety. Subaru then says he cleared up to step 20, beating his old man's record, and the proctor praised him as Lord Reinhardt's son. The smug man, Isaac, dismisses this with a slight ha and boasts that he even got a B rank skill as a clear reward, which is apparently top tier for a tutorial skill. Isaac cuts off the conversation, saying all this talk made him thirsty and he should get a drink. Subaru agrees, saying he will head out. Isaac tells Subaru to grab coffee and snacks on his way back. Subaru just stares blankly, prompting Isaac to ask if he is serious, calling him stubborn as ever. Isaac demands to know what is wrong with him, why he is staring and talking back. He asks if Subaru swapped souls with someone, his eyes flashing red. Subaru firmly states he has no credits and tells Isaac to buy his own coffee, demanding he sit. Isaac looks down with a cold expression. Isaac warns Subaru that he doesn't have time for his revenge, unless it interferes with his own, and tells him to let go for his own good. Subaru's eyes widen in shock and intensity as Isaac grips him. Isaac holds Subaru's arm firmly, demanding his attention. Isaac says hey, intensely looking at Subaru. He asks if Subaru is really eager to see what becomes of runaway trash, then warns him to let go for his own good. The chapter ends with the two locked in a tense physical confrontation, Isaac gripping Subaru's jacket tightly. Subaru was having an intense moment in a crowded place when a much bigger guy confronted him aggressively. The aggressive man got very close, his eyes glowing red, and warned Subaru not to be cocky, calling him by name. Subaru tried to stay calm because making a scene publicly would only bring him trouble. The other man just laughed it off, saying he was only joking like old times, but then he started insulting Subaru. He kept taunting Subaru, saying he was still weak and probably only just managed to pass the tutorial. The taunter continued his verbal attack, questioning if someone like a piece of trash seriously thought he could take him on. He even threatened Subaru, claiming he could quietly wipe him out whenever he wanted, reminding him about his powerful father. The intimidating man then told Subaru to watch himself before walking away from the confrontation. Subaru was left fuming, thinking about how that person dared to call him a friend after that display. The narration then shifted, explaining the two main ways players could get stronger in this world. The first way was through trials, which involved climbing a tower and getting rewards. Players had to pay credits to enter trials, but the big plus was that safety was guaranteed because it was in a virtual space. If a player died in a trial, they only lost credits and progress, not their life. The second way to grow was hunting, where players fought monsters outside safe zones or in special dungeons. Hunting made players stronger much faster than trials, but the danger was real since it happened in real space. If a player died while hunting or in a dungeon, they truly died, which is why many players avoided this risky path. The narration concluded that the safe route was slow, but the riskier one was fast. Then, the focus shifted to a popular streamer named Narukami Subaru, who was about to start his Floor 3 trial live stream, with 80,000 viewers already watching. The streamer cheerfully told his viewers he was starting the Floor 3 trial, but Subaru, watching on his device, felt a sense of deja vu. Subaru realized the streamer was using his exact name and mask gimmick, wondering how many copycats there were now. The copycat streamer had missions posted, like one for 20,000 credits from someone calling Narukami Subaru an idiot. Subaru saw more missions popping up, including one for 10,000 credits and another promising 5,000 credits if he prayed for his success. The streamer then announced he was putting up 15,000 credits and promised his viewers he would clear the trial for them. Subaru saw the stark contrast. Narukami Subaru making easy money by streaming versus his own life spent risking it all fighting monsters. With 500 credits in hand, Subaru decided to do one more run, thinking about how much cash that streamer was pulling in. Just then, the boss for the dungeon appeared, but Subaru didn't need the poison needles like before. He activated his nameless cursed sword, which started absorbing his stamina to boost his stats, while some of his stamina and willpower recovered. With his wedge of greed resisting the sword's effect, Subaru grinned, saying he was busy and didn't have time for small fry. After clearing the dungeon, the system announced the clear and Subaru took off the mask he thought he would never wear again. He reflected that he now truly understood how streamers made money, resolving to do it his own way, using what he was best at. As the live stream started, people watching the copycat streamer were shocked that he cleared the dungeon when even 5 people couldn't before. They speculated that since the real Narukami Subaru never showed up, whoever is the best copycat becomes the perceived original. The comment section was full of people watching the cosplayers goofing around, and some worried that live streaming as Narukami Subaru might be over for good. Someone commented that they make a living thanks to streamers, but that these imposters don't even know the basics of climbing the tower, which was disrespectful to those risking their lives. The conversation turned to why Hastags gave up on the tower to stay stuck there, to which she replied it was boring. She pointed out that the other speaker also gave up, and if he had time to bother her, he should find new talent instead. The man admitted he dropped out because he didn't have the drive, and seeing her reaction, he stopped talking, realizing her words sounded serious. The man then explained that Hastags only started climbing the tower to meet Narukami Subaru, and once she lost Subaru, she lost her motivation. The woman noticed someone new, commenting, "Did you find another weirdo?" The man pointed to a new Narukami Subaru cosplayer streaming on floor 2 with 0 viewers. The woman complained, asking why he was watching streams with no viewers, but he admitted that whenever he saw that mask he couldn't help but get his hopes up. He mentioned that he just got 1,000 credits from a donation, making the woman flinch and nervously ask for forgiveness. The system announced the start of the Floor 2 trial, which was to clear the Dungeon of Beginnings and exit with achievement points awarded for defeated monsters. The masked Subaru stepped into the dark, glowing entrance of the dungeon, thinking that the Floor 2 trial wasn't something to get nervous about. However, he then thought that knowing people were watching did put some pressure on him. A viewer with the name Love Money asked what floor he was on, and another chimed in asking if it was his first time. Subaru confirmed it was his first attempt at streaming, and the viewer asked if it was okay to stream, adding that if it was his first time, he probably wouldn't even know the way around. Subaru just stood there, looking into the dark dungeon entrance, and curtly asked, "Is there a problem?" The scene shifted back to the office where the woman, Hastags, and the man were watching the stream, and the man looked angry that Subaru was streaming on floor 2 with 0 viewers. Hastags, on the other hand, was interested because seeing the mask still gave her hope, and she had just received 1,000 credit donation. Seeing the donation made the man flinch, and he muttered an apology. The system then confirmed, beginning Floor 2 trial. The trial objectives appeared, clear the Dungeon of Beginnings and exit, with points based on defeated monsters. Subaru stood at the entrance of the dark, torchlit cave, confirming that the Floor 2 trial was easy enough not to worry about. But knowing people were watching added pressure, as seen when the viewer Love Money asked what floor he was on and if it was his first time. Subaru confirmed it was his first time, and the viewer questioned if streaming was okay, suggesting he wouldn't know the way around. Subaru looked ahead as a small, winged creature swooped down toward him. The small monster attacked, but Subaru swiftly countered with a powerful strike from his red glowing sword. The sword hit the creature, causing a bright impact, and the system announced, Blind Bat defeated. 1 achievement point acquired. The chapter ended with Subaru, still masked and glowing with power, looking intensely forward and asking, "Is there a problem?" The story moves to Floor 2, the Dungeon of Beginnings, and the trial is about to start. The main goal is to clear this dungeon and exit, earning achievement points based on the monsters defeated. The streamer is live with only 3 viewers, and one viewer comments that his reflexes are really good, surprised to see people streaming from Floor 2 these days. Another viewer, Love Money, notes that many streamers quit fast if their viewer count doesn't go up. Love Money advises him to wait for a party for safety, but the streamer thanks him and says he prefers to challenge things alone. The streamer confirms that he likes to go solo, even as the live viewer count ticks up to 6 people, with some viewers asking if he is done or questioning his lack of preparation. One person notes that just by using the name Narukami Subaru, viewers gather even if he does nothing, but the streamer just decides to go as far as he can. He moves forward in the cave, and a mud mermaid is suddenly seen on the ground, possibly defeated already. A massive attack is shown connecting with one of the creatures, a small bat-like monster, slicing it midair. The streamer finishes his thought about going as far as he can, while the aftermath of his fast attack on the bat monster is shown. A system message confirms a mud mermaid was defeated and 2 achievement points were acquired. Viewers start asking if anyone saw what happened, with one admitting they kinda saw a mud mermaid as the streamer looks intensely toward the screen. Suddenly, a swarm of one-eyed bats appears, lunging at the streamer as he braces himself. The streamer unleashes a powerful, dark energy-infused sword swing, cutting through the incoming bats in a flurry of motion. A close-up shows the intense focus on his eyes behind the mask as he fights the aggressive, one-eyed bat. As the attack concludes, Love Money asks what that incredible move just was. Other viewers are stunned, asking what happened, and the live count jumps to 10 viewers as the streamer seems focused on something else. System notifications pop up showing that 2 one-eyed bats and 2 mud mermaids were defeated, earning 4 achievement points in total. Holding his weapon, the streamer calmly explains to the chat that if one focuses on the sound, they can figure out the direction and number of enemies. He stands ready in the cavern surrounded by defeated monsters as more enemies seem to be lurking in the darkness. The chat reacts wildly, calling him a hardcore player and asking his level, to which the streamer implies that if they understand the concept, they should be able to do it. Viewers argue that normal people can't do what he does, saying it all depends on a player's sense, which the streamer finds funny since they are saying that while knowing everything he knows, he decides there is still a long way to go, wanting to gather as many achievement points as possible before leaving this floor. As he walks straight ahead, one viewer assumes he is just walking in a straight line without any specific strategy. Viewers comment that real men walk straight, while others question if he even researched properly or suggest he just got lucky as he steps forward determinedly. The streamer looks up, showing a slight smirk, as a large group of spiky, lurking creatures appear on a cave wall. He looks up at the massive wall covered in these unknown creatures, readying for the next engagement. A huge, terrifying red eye appears, belonging to a much larger creature that seems to be leading the swarm. The viewers watching declare that it's over for him this time, suggesting he should see them on the retry. The streamer posts a mission he doesn't fully understand, defeat everything and get 100 credits. Viewers call this mission bait and scummy, leading the streamer to muse about his very own dead stream. He thanks someone for the 100 credits, and then we see a close-up of a clenched fist hitting something, maybe a desk. A frantic man yells, asking what he is doing and why he quit on floor 6 when he was doing fine before. The man is clearly distressed, shouting for his money back, but then he apologizes, admitting he was yelling. A woman next to him looks unimpressed while checking her phone, and the man apologizes again, saying he will pay back the money. The woman asks what is up and what he is watching, noting he is unusually quiet. The man points at the screen, exclaiming, "This is insane," as the woman looks intensely at the display. The man gets louder, saying it wasn't that much money and he will pay her back, vowing never to gamble again. The woman interrupts, saying that's not the real issue, and then says the name Narukami Subaru. The man seems shocked, asking if she is still watching that stream. He reacts with utter disbelief, saying, "No way." The stream viewer count is now at 15, and people are calling the display insane, wondering how many attempts this took and how many enemies he is taking down alone. The streamer is shown in a moment of extreme combat, his sword enveloped in dark red energy. The viewers watching comment on how amazing Subaru is, noting that even when changing his sword's swing midway, his breathing and focus never change. Two figures are watching the stream. One asks what they mean by sword's trajectory, as the other stands tall. The second figure explains that it looks like he's cutting everything down in a single swing from the start, wondering if he is calculating future movements and responses beforehand. The first figure dismisses this, saying he isn't thinking about anything particular, causing the second figure to question him with a look. The first figure teases the second by calling the streamer a show-off, but the second retorts that normal people can't do that, suggesting the streamer's behavior is weird. The second figure recalls that even someone named Shigeru thought it was weird, then starts explaining that in communication, the key is clear eye contact and explanation. While explaining, the streamer is shown expertly dodging and attacking a group of one-eyed bats in the dungeon. The explanation continues, when taking out a bunch of one-eyed bats, don't aim for each eye one by one, because they always lunge forward headfirst. Therefore, the more bats there are, the more openings they create for attacks, as demonstrated by the streamer's next move. The streamer executes a powerful, arcing swing, utilizing the openings created by the lunging enemies. Viewers argue in the chat, with some criticizing the previous explanation as useless and others demanding that whoever called the streamer a newbie should reveal themselves. One high-level viewer complains about being coached by a floor 2 newbie, comparing the basic explanation to saying if you move your feet forward, you can walk. The streamer reflects that communication is hard, then remembers Love Money's advice to claim credits and says, "Ah, right." He pulls up his device to check the system information. Viewers ask if he is spacing out, and the streamer asks how to actually claim the credits he earned. Someone in the chat points out that skill aside, he is a total beginner at streaming, and Love Money instructs him to hit the claim button in the missions section, just as the system announces the mission is cleared and credits awarded. He thanks the viewer and says the next one will be the last, as the live viewer count rises to 20. The streamer walks away, exiting the area, and the system displays his current status, 150 credits owned and 37 achievement points. Back in the control room, as the streamer exits the dungeon area, a shocked scream is heard, and the scene shifts to an exterior shot of a building at night. The two people watching the stream are completely stunned, with the woman exclaiming, "This is insane, crazy is all I can say." The man says the streamer is the crazy one, and the woman challenges him, asking if he has ever seen anything like this before. The man tries to calm her down, saying she is overreacting because it's only floor 2, but she gets agitated and defends her reaction. The man backs down, apologizing, while the woman gets excited, learning the streamer is Narukami Subaru from Earth, wondering if he is a reincarnation. The woman gets extremely enthusiastic about the idea of a reincarnation story involving Narukami Subaru. The man looks distressed as the woman gets overly dramatic, thinking she is going to pass out from excitement over Subaru. She stops herself from fainting, but the man pushes back, asking if she is planning to scout this guy right now. She argues that he might be special, but he's a brand new streamer with no viewers, to which the man replies that she doesn't actually know that much. The man points out she was gambling just a minute ago and is now suddenly acting serious, but she retorts that he needs to wait and see. She insists he will see, while the man seems less convinced, pointing out that if they report this, they'll just get chewed out by the chief again. The woman stares at the screen, still watching Subaru's progress. She holds her device close, looking determined. The screen shows Narukami Subaru at the end of the dungeon. The streamer arrives at a large gate at the end of the floor, and sounds of his arrival are highlighted. The streamer realizes someone is waiting for him at the end of the dungeon, identified as Wolf Warrior Greg. A large imposing structure or doorway is shown, marking the end of the current zone. The streamer approaches the figure and states that Wolf Warrior Greg is waiting for him. A system box appears, and then the fearsome appearance of Wolf Warrior Greg, a large, powerful wolf warrior, is revealed with an intense sound effect. Wolf Warrior Greg lets out a fierce roar, clearly ready for a fight. Viewers in the chat share their own struggles with Wolf Warrior Greg, saying they struggled 8 times, and the system displays the mission, earn the recognition of Wolf Warrior Greg. The system explains that passing through the gate leads to the trial, and wolf warriors are not just monsters to hunt. They act as gatekeepers who gauge the strength of players who clear the initial dungeon of beginnings and decide if they can proceed. The streamer looks at his screen, noticing a message about potentially earning 3,000 credits if he defeats Greg. He reacts with surprise at the high credit reward as the live viewers increase to 20. The viewers comment that this is a monster that usually shouldn't be defeated by someone like him, implying the streamer is doing the impossible. Wolf Warrior Greg is shown taking a heavy blow, with a deep wound appearing on his body. The giant Wolf Warrior looks enraged as he braces for more impact. The system confirms the opponent, Wolf Warrior Greg, gatekeeper of floor 2. Wolf Warrior Greg looks down at the streamer with glowing eyes, calling him a guest. The path ahead opened up with a clear goal, to get the recognition of the Wolf Warrior. The streamer, wearing a mask, stood firm, facing the massive, powerful Wolf Warrior. The Wolf Warrior seemed surprised, asking if the human was alone. Looking down at the masked figure, the Wolf Warrior asked again if he was truly by himself. The beast continued, noting that the human seemed interesting, as it could smell the scent of a great warrior on him. Viewers in the chat reacted, joking about the warrior smelling like a goblin king's corpse previously, contrasting with the current compliment. The Wolf Warrior then explained that warriors of the wolf tribe could sense a person's true nature through special scents, not just body odor. The close-up showed the streamer's determined eye, confirming that the warriors could smell a person's real character. The Wolf Warrior concluded that the streamer already had the right to pass through, meaning the trial was finished, and told him to go ahead. The masked man, now past the giant warrior, looked back at the grand stone structure while a viewer wondered why the warrior was acting this way. Despite passing the trial easily, the streamer was overwhelmed, realizing something he had never experienced, even in his past life. He looked up, realizing that since he was already there, his real target was the Wolf Warrior, not the door behind him. The Wolf Warrior confirmed that the target was indeed the warrior himself, not the passage. The streamer then revealed the reason for his presence. Someone had specifically told him to kill the Wolf Warrior. The Wolf Warrior reacted strongly, realizing this opponent carried the soul of a great warrior, just as expected. This confirmed the assessment of the warrior's true nature. The scene suddenly shifted to a bright, modern office where 3 people were standing near a desk with a plant. One man was shown aggressively typing on a keyboard as the group stood waiting. The man, identified as John Tail, the department head of Southern Entertainment, asked about the streamer's current viewer count. John Tail was furiously typing, and another person hesitantly answered that the viewer count had just passed 20. A blue-haired man next to the woman disagreed, saying no. The woman cheerfully corrected that the count just passed 30. but John Tail angrily stated that such a small number didn't change anything, calling the blue-haired man an idiot. John Tail then turned his anger toward the blue-haired man and the woman, demanding if they were kidding him. He confronted the blue-haired man, Kiyoharu, for gambling while on the job, especially after being told to find someone promising. John Tail pointed out the failure. Kiyoharu brought him a streamer with only 20 viewers, to which the woman quickly corrected, saying 30. John Tail got even angrier, shouting that the detail didn't matter, and then suggested to Hatsuka, the woman, that she should stream herself because she had the skills to get fans. Hatsuka called him Chief. As Hatsuka and Kiyoharu stepped back toward the door, the chief was still focused on his screen, and someone mentioned they had only peaked again. Another person noted that the streamer's viewer count was now over 40, interrupting the chief, who was still agitated, and asking if they were listening. The focus returned to the masked streamer standing ready to fight the roaring wolf warrior, who was powering up with blue energy. The wolf warrior let out a fierce roar, preparing a powerful swipe with its massive claws. The streamer gripped his glowing red sword and thought to himself, "Don't think about anything." System information appeared. The nameless cursed sword was draining the user's stamina, but in return, all stats increased based on the stamina consumed. The streamer tried to stay calm as the system warned that his wedge of greed LV.2 was resisting the sword's dangerous backlash. A thought urged him to just do what he always does, even though this was his first time dealing with this specific backlash. The wolf warrior attacked downward with tremendous force, shaking the ground. The masked fighter stayed low as the beast's heavy attack came down. The streamer met the attack head-on, his red glowing sword clashing with the creature's power in a bright explosion of energy. The wolf warrior's claw struck out right after the clash. The streamer rose up through the impact, hitting the wolf warrior with a powerful downward strike, glowing with blue and red energy. His foot stamped hard onto the cracked ground as he pressed his attack. The wolf warrior was engulfed in intense blue energy from the continuing strike. As the fight raged, a viewer commented on the strength of the opponent, while the streamer acknowledged that matching the wolf warrior's raw power was too difficult. Despite the immense strength difference, the streamer was not giving up, thinking, but still. The wolf warrior, recovering slightly, acknowledged the opponent as a true warrior just before another heavy strike of blue energy hit him. The force of the exchange was immense, shattering the stone floor around them. The streamer lunged forward, shouting that the beast was no match for him now. He gripped his cursed sword tighter, his resolve clear as he prepared for the final move. With a decisive move, the streamer aimed to turn that into a skewer, but viewers wondered if defense alone was enough against this powerful named mob. Viewers noted how strong the named monster was and speculated if a few more tries might work, calling the fight brutal. The streamer, however, was determined, running forward. The streamer thought that sometimes ways other than brute strength are more effective as he faced the beast again. The wolf warrior declared that the streamer had entertained him, but claimed this was as far as he would go, powering up for a final blow. The wolf warrior lunged at the masked figure for what seemed like the finishing move. The streamer met the charge head-on, channeling energy that sent debris flying as he countered the massive blow. In a moment of intense focus, the streamer's eyes glowed red beneath his mask, ready to strike. The streamer sharply retorted, "That's my line," surprising the wolf warrior, then pressed his advantage, telling the confused warrior that its attacks were too predictable and easy to dodge, causing blood to spurt from the warrior's chest. The streamer executed a powerful maneuver, landing a devastating blow, making the monster gasp in pain. The streamer continued his assault, driving his sword deep into the wolf warrior's chest. With the cursed sword fully engaged, the energy flow intensified, focused purely on the enemy. The cursed sword sliced through the wolf warrior, leaving a trail of dark red energy and blood. The streamer held the sword firmly, pushing the attack home. The wolf warrior cried out, acknowledging the splendid warrior as the attack landed deeply. A massive impact sound echoed as the creature was finally brought down. The streamer stood over the defeated wolf warrior, and a system window confirmed the monster was defeated. The system announced a level up, showing increases in strength, agility, and focus, though fatigue had also increased. He acquired 500 achievement points, and as blood dripped from his boots, viewers flooded the chat, amazed that he actually won, especially solo, and that this might be the first time the monster was ever killed. The streamer, wiping sweat and some mask damage from his face, muttered, "I defeated it solo?" Viewers praised the achievement, noting no one thought he could kill it, and the system confirmed the mission was cleared. He checked his phone, confirming 3,000 credits had been sent, and stated he would put them to good use as a safe asset. The system updated his credits and points, and the door he was meant to pass through earlier finally opened. The The streamer turned and walked toward the newly opened passage, energy swirling around him. He paused, seemingly confused by something, while viewers in the chat mentioned two possible paths. The system displayed information about various trials, mentioning attribute-typed tests, the Law of Nature series, and that the rarest trials were written on small plex. The streamer, facing the path ahead, was observed by the office staff on a monitor which showed his current progress in the trials. Viewers debated the number of known trial types, and the system offered a choice: challenge the trial of thunder. The streamer, looking determined despite his exhaustion, accepted the choice, saying, "All set. You're the one." He stepped into the bright light of the new trial entrance, the system confirming his commitment. He was enveloped in a bright blue light as he entered the next stage. Back in the office, the success of the streamer was visible on the monitor. The office staff reacted with great excitement to his success. The woman screamed happily, and the others cheered, shouting, "He did it." The woman was ecstatic about the rapid growth in viewers, already hitting 60, and pointed out that he had already completed 13 missions, which was unheard of compared to the usual 2 or 3. John Tail admitted that getting 13 missions done was impressive, especially since the Wolf Warrior had never been beaten before. However, he cautioned that the streamer was still just a rookie on floor 2, and moving him up too fast would be a big risk to carry. Another person then interrupted John Tail, suggesting a bet instead of making a decision right away. John Tail was intrigued by the idea of a bet, and the proposer laid out the terms. If Lord Subaru failed to learn thunder, he and Kiyoharu would keep their salaries frozen for 5 years. The woman enthusiastically agreed to the second part. If Subaru succeeded in learning thunder, John Tail had to sign him immediately without complaint. Kiyoharu panicked, protesting that he shouldn't be dragged into this, and argued that the streamer likely didn't even have a chance at the thunder trial. John Tail smiled confidently, stating that the only player to ever learn thunder was Narukami Subaru himself, implying it was nearly impossible. The woman countered by saying that he wouldn't know unless he let the streamer try. The woman smiled slyly, accepting the challenge, saying, "HMPH fine, I'll take that bet." John Tail looked pleased with the bet, while Kiyoharu looked absolutely crushed and speechless beneath the triumphant smiles of the others. The trial of thunder was about to start, and the main character was already glowing with blue power. As he stood there, he realized something about this place. Suddenly, someone yelled to look out, and a figure in black armor quickly moved forward. This masked figure moved super fast and clashed with an opponent with a loud impact sound. The force of the impact sent debris flying everywhere in a huge burst of energy. 2 people were seen cowering on the ground while a huge, pale monster, a giant fragment, stood over them. A man in soldier gear shouted at the masked man for spacing out, clearly in a panic. He aggressively asked if the masked man wanted to die by standing around. The system announced a new mission: defeat the giant fragment, and the masked man looked down, readying himself. He wondered why this specific monster, which should appear later, was already here. The masked hero faced the massive giant fragment, while the soldier watched in shock. Viewers in the system chat were confused, asking what was happening and noting this monster belonged to the giant's episode, questioning why it was showing up so early. One viewer pointed out that this boss-class monster was not supposed to show up until the second half of the trial. The hero prepared for a massive swing, indicated by the huge action lines. He delivered a powerful, golden glowing strike to the giant, causing a huge explosion. More action lines suggest the hero is moving with incredible speed. The hero stood over the giant fragment after his devastating attack, holding his dark sword. Noted that even though the giant was big, it was clumsy and beneath the level of someone named Greg, and he was glad he knew this beforehand. Meanwhile, the soldier from before was running towards him. The soldier shouted about the hero saving him, while the hero decided to finish this quickly before others interfered. The hero's eyes glowed red as his cursed sword began draining his stamina. System messages explained that the nameless cursed sword drained stamina, but all stats increase as stamina is consumed, and his wedge of greed LV. 2 skill was resisting the sword's negative effects. The hero struck the giant fragment again with a powerful move, causing blue energy to erupt. The cursed sword plunged deep into the giant, covered in dark red energy, as the hero pressed his attack. The hero followed up with another massive, fiery orange attack toward the giant. He leaped away from the giant just as the massive creature's body exploded with debris flying everywhere. The hero landed firmly, preparing for the final blow with a fiery sword slash indicated by red lines. The hero glowed with intense red energy as he prepared a final, downward strike. He moved with great speed, while the giant looked up in confusion, and the soldier watched the aerial attack. The hero landed on the giant and pressed his hand against its large body, preparing the finishing move. A huge, bloody impact was shown as the hero drove the sword in deep. Hero stood atop the giant, which was beginning to dissolve under a blue glow, signifying defeat. The hero's intense focus and glowing red eyes suggested a strong exertion of power. The hero told the giant it was too noisy and instructed it to stay quiet for the rest of its life, readying the final stab with his glowing sword. The giant looked up in a confused, stunned manner after taking the final blow. A close-up of the giant's face showed its eyes glowing intensely as everything around it blurred with speed lines, indicating its defeat. The giant fragment was defeated, lying dead, with the soldier looking on from below as the hero stood over the massive corpse. The system confirmed Stage 4 was cleared. The viewers were shocked that Stage 4 was cleared so quickly, and a level up notification appeared. The hero gained +2 strength, +1 agility, a great increase in vitality, and +1 magic. He also gained 400 achievement points and obtained 2 new items, the Giant's Heart and the Thunder Armor. The viewers were amazed by the huge reward drop, noting the 4,000 points and realizing the hero must have gotten a perfect clear on stages 1-3 by defeating the Wolf Warrior. The soldier from before recognized the hero and rushed over, saying, "Ah, it's you." All viewers mocked the soldier for switching from calling him sir to you so fast. A viewer commented that such a sudden massive drop in Stage 4 caused panic, and the soldier asked the hero who he exactly was. The hero replied that the soldier could see it, and he was there to slay giants. The hero stared back intensely, confirming his purpose was to defeat the giants plaguing the land. A viewer complained that the explanation was too short as the scene changed to a peaceful-looking village nestled between mountains and forests. The camera panned over the quaint, rustic village with wooden houses and a small bridge over a stream. People were going about their day in the village, but some looked tense. Inside a simple wooden room, the hero, now wearing casual clothes, sat on a bed, looking at his phone, his dark sword leaning against the bed frame. The hero, looking at the screen, agreed with the viewers that he was curious about the loot too and decided to check the items together. He activated the item check interface, showing glowing effects, and the system detailed the first item. The first item was the Giant's Heart, an accessory that increases vitality and recovery, which the hero noted was good because accessory items are rare, and the vitality bonus was perfect. The hero mentioned he also wanted armor, and the system displayed the Thunder Armor, rare rank, defense 5, infused with lightning, allowing the use of thunderclap and granting status ailment immunity, with 3 uses remaining. Viewers commented on how huge the rewards were, with one noting the armor was viable up to floor 5, while another emphasized that the Giant's Heart was a lifetime item whose price could be anything. The hero seemed intrigued by the reactions. He saw a mission posted by Demon Realm Lover offering 5,000 credits if he learned Thunder. The hero started to reply to someone named Narukami Subaru. More missions popped up. I'm Bald by Choice added 5,000 credits to the same mission. Top Timing Run added 3,000 credits, and Woman Barrier suggested going big with 7,000 credits. The hero thanked everyone, promising to show them Thunder eventually. Feeling the weight of so many people waiting, he realized that Narukami Subaru was an even more significant person than he thought, maybe someone important. The hero, now back in his dark gear, stood tall, reflecting on how special Narukami Subaru seemed. He heard some sound coming from the door. He opened the door, handing something over as viewers commented on others begging for credits and eavesdropping outside. 2 men, one in heavy silver armor, Peleus, and another beside him, stood waiting. The hero apologized for the wait and introduced the man in armor as Sir Peleus, captain of the village knights. Peleus offered a handshake, saying it was a pleasure to meet him. Outside the building, Peleus explained that giants' raids had become very frequent lately. He continued that their knights were always on standby 24 hours, and for the safety of the villagers, everyone was told to stay inside. Peleus mentioned that meeting an outsider like the hero during these times was rare. He then thanked the hero on behalf of the villagers because he heard the hero protected the village while Peleus was away. The hero humbly replied that he only did what anyone should, then mentioned that they had located the giant leader during their last scouting mission. The hero looked intently at Peleus, recognizing him as the brave knight who stood against the giants, the face of the village. Peleus continued, stating their intention to settle things with the giants once and for all during their next encounter. He looked serious as he said this, showing his determination. Peleus declared they would fight even if it cost them their lives. Then both he and the other knight bowed their heads in a plea. Peleus swallowed his pride and begged the hero for help, while the hero silently looked out at the village. Viewers commented on the plea for help, and one viewer even mentioned a spoiler about Peleus dying. The hero internally dismissed the spoiler, recalling something from his memory. He remembered that, if his memory was correct, Peleus would die in the next stage. The scene shifted to a dark, intense vision of Peleus falling in the next stage. The hero told Peleus that he would help and asked him to raise his head. Peleus, relieved, thanked him. The hero offered his hand to Peleus to help him up, saying, "Please, raise your head. I'll help." Peleus gratefully accepted the help, shaking the hero's hand, just as the system announced the start of Stage 5, Survival. As the new stage began, the scene shifted to a beautiful sunset sky with birds flying. The view showed the knights, led by Peleus, marching out toward the mountains at sunset. The hero walked with them, looking down at his phone, where the chat feed was rapidly scrolling. He noted that when the viewer count goes up, the chat moves too fast. He felt he couldn't communicate properly like this with the fast-moving chat. The hero stopped the group, pointing out that he saw something. The knights followed his gaze to where the giant chief lay defeated. The hero confirmed that the defeated monster was the giant chief, as the giant looked massive even in defeat. Peleus stated his plan. He would draw the giant's attention, and the hero, the benefactor, should strike from behind. Peleus drew his sword, ready to charge, but the hero held up a hand to stop him. The hero looked closely at the defeated giant and suddenly realized something. He said, "Wait," and then realized the terrible truth, that thing. Intense action sounds erupted as the ground shook. Peleus and the other knights looked terrified as the ground shook violently around them. The hero realized grimly, it's not alone. A close-up showed the defeated giant's body starting to crack and change as something else was coming. More giants appeared, surrounding the area as the sky turned an ominous orange. More pale, menacing giants emerged from the shadows, closing in on the knights. The knights were completely surrounded by the horrifying, grinning giants. Peleus shouted in distress, seeing the overwhelming number of enemies. The giant chief seemed to grab one of the knights, while others yelled for help. The knights tried to fight back against the onslaught, but the dark energy suggested they were being overwhelmed. A close-up on one knight's eye showed the reflection of the terrifying giants looming over him. The giant chief was shown smiling menacingly, and someone shouted for everyone to fall back to the foot of the mountain. The knights scrambled backward in panic as the massive wave of giants charged towards them. Peleus yelled at his men to move now, facing the immediate danger. The battle was intense, with monstrous figures closing in on the struggling heroes. The monsters roared with wide, terrifying smiles, their eyes glowing menacingly. A figure lay defeated on the ground, bathed in the orange glow of the battlefield. One of the younger fighters screamed in distress, being held back by his comrades as he shouted for someone to stop. The others cried out for their big brother, watching in horror as the battle raged on around the fallen hero. A strong figure, seemingly the leader, stood firm against the onslaught and declared that it was an order. He ordered everyone to fall back, telling them to think about their families and the village they needed to protect. The leader assured them this was not the end and they would regroup, then firmly told Falcon to lead the remaining men away. Falcon, looking determined, acknowledged the order while the others were already retreating toward the trees. The leader then looked at Falcon, who was shocked, and asked why he wasn't running away with the others. Falcon insisted he couldn't leave the powerful fighter alone, stating that if the leader wouldn't move, they would face death together. The masked leader firmly told Falcon not to make him repeat himself, which made Falcon reluctantly agree to rally the remaining soldiers. With the others gone, the leader unleashed a dark, crimson energy around himself and his cursed sword. The leader confirmed he was staying to fight, leaving Falcon confused and worried about his decision. The leader explained that he couldn't fight properly with Falcon around, suggesting they would just die together if Falcon refused to leave. Falcon, showing his loyalty, declared he could never abandon an outsider and run away. The leader cut him off, telling him not to make him repeat himself, so Falcon agreed to go rally the men and beg the leader to hold on somehow. As Falcon ran off, the leader braced himself, preparing for the fight ahead against the surrounding giants. Falcon called back, telling the leader to stay safe, and ran toward the monsters who were still present. One of the giants let out a fierce roar as the masked hero prepared to engage the horde. The hero moved with incredible speed, unleashing a powerful golden burst of energy in the midst of the enemy. Two large, imposing giants stared down at the hero who had just managed to survive the initial attack. The hero moved with lightning speed, his dark aura swirling around him as he charged forward. He declared to the giants that he was their opponent now, his eyes burning with intensity. The hero swiftly moved through the giants, striking one down with a powerful slash. The powerful swings of his sword created massive arcs of energy, tearing through the enemies around him. The hero continued his assault, dodging and weaving between the massive threats. The remaining giants let out a low, guttural sound as they faced the relentless attacker. The hero stood firm, surrounded by the dark energy of his weapon. The system reported that 2 giant trace enemies were defeated, granting 20 achievement points. The hero thought that fighting them one by one was manageable, but the real question was how long he could use the sword's power. No action or dialogue in this crop, just white space. Meanwhile, Falcon was running away through the forest, the ground shaking from the sounds of the continuing battle. Sounds of impact echoed as Falcon retreated, while below, the dark energy around the hero flared up. Falcon looked back with a worried expression, emphasizing the seriousness of the situation. Falcon's eyes showed his intense worry and stress about the one left behind. Intense sounds of impact accompanied the growing power around the main character. The hero was surrounded by several glowing-eyed giants, standing ready to fight them all. The chat messages showed that people were amazed by the fight, noting that fighting so many was suicide and that this stage was surprisingly difficult because the hero was beating what was not meant to be beaten, even mentioning saving Peleus. The hero, with his glowing eyes visible through his mask, thought to himself that with his current power, he might be able to save everyone. The hero launched himself into the fray, engaging the group of giants with powerful strikes. He moved so fast that only streaks of light marked his path as he attacked. The hero was low to the ground, executing a deadly slash against one of the giants, covered in dark red energy. Another system notification popped up, showing 10 achievement points gained from defeating another giant trace. More system messages appeared, confirming another defeat and points earned. The system then gave crucial information. The nameless cursed sword was draining the user's stamina, but all stats increased based on the stamina consumed. The hero decided that taking them down one by one was not too hard, but the main problem was how long he could keep using the sword's intense power. For now, his immediate plan was clear. He focused on securing his field of vision amidst the chaos, and his next objective was to locate the boss among the remaining enemies. The hero unleashed a powerful move, severing one of the giants with his dark, red-infused sword. In a flash, he leaped into the air, his sword leaving trails of light as he struck down multiple giants simultaneously. The hero landed amidst the defeated giants, surrounded by the golden light and the remaining enemies looking shocked. The powerful impact of his moves was visible, even as he focused on the final threats. He delivered a crushing kick directly to the face of one of the approaching giants. The dark sword, now glowing with a visible red arc, sliced through several more enemies in a sweeping motion. A massive blow connected with one giant's face, sending energy and blood spraying outward. The viewers in the chat noted how fast he was, recalling that aerial combat was once someone else's specialty, but also realizing that Wedge of Greed LV.2 was failing to counter the sword's stamina drain, though the user's HP and mental strength were recovering, and stamina consumption was changing due to gear. The hero realized that the gear really made a big difference in the fight's mechanics. He knew he had to hurry up and defeat the boss before their limits were reached. The hero saw the remaining giants surging toward him as an urgent feeling struck him. His attention zeroed in on a particularly large giant with a long beard who chuckled menacingly. The hero focused his attack on this imposing, large figure who seemed to be the main target. He prepared for a final, decisive strike, understanding the high stakes. He thought that if he didn't finish this with one powerful blow, he would be the one dying. The hero inwardly pleaded for his final technique to succeed against the approaching boss. He gathered his power, extending his hand, ready to unleash a potent skill. The system indicated he was using Thunderclap. A powerful blast announced that the Thunderclap echoes across the battlefield. The golden energy of Thunderclap struck the giants with incredible force. The effect of the blast was immense, knocking the large enemies backward. The giants were visibly staggered and overwhelmed by the sudden, massive shockwave. The hero followed up the thunderclap with a fierce strike from his dark sword. The bearded giant screamed in rage and pain at the human's attack. The hero was deep in the strike against the giant leader, while the system alerted him again about the sword draining his stamina. He gripped the cursed sword tighter, channeling intense dark red power into the weapon. A massive wave of dark energy exploded from the hero as he completed his powerful downward slash. The strike landed heavily on the giant leader's chest area. The hero, now covered in blood and surrounded by his dark aura, braced himself after delivering the critical hit. The bearded giant's eyes widened in shock and pain as the blow landed. The giant's head was thrown back from the sheer force of the final attack. The remaining giants staggered from the massive shockwave of the finishing blow. The hero's attack ripped through the giant boss, causing massive damage. The system announced that the giant seed was defeated and Stage 5 survival cleared. A message praised the achievement as truly remarkable, followed by system notifications. Level up X2, strength +1, agility +1. Further stats increased, vitality +2, magic +1, all while the hero seemed to be broadcasting live. The hero stood amid the aftermath, while the chat expressed amazement at the impossible victory, with one user noting that beating something unbeatable was a major problem. The hero thought about how weak his own body felt, reflecting that in a manga, this would be the cool finishing shot, but the reality was different. A dark, electric storm gathered overhead as the immediate danger passed. The hero looked at the fallen giants and the dark sky, still standing strong. The system reported that the Wedge of Greed LV.2 failed to resist the nameless cursed sword's effect as the hero gripped his weapon. The hero began to move again, running away from the immediate area as the power of the sword pulsed around him. He confirmed his realization, even if a stage is cleared, the job isn't done. The hero understood that the monsters wouldn't disappear until the entire exam was officially over. He realized the mechanic he used last time to gain an advantage was now backfiring on him. The hero thought, "This is bad," as he realized his strength was already declining. Surrounded again by the remaining giants, the hero felt his power visibly fading. A massive surge of golden energy erupted from below, suggesting a new, powerful action was starting. The golden energy spread outwards, showing a massive display of force. The hero, now seemingly encased in a golden light, looked intense and exhausted. The remaining giants were caught in the path of this massive, final energy wave. A huge, blinding explosion of golden energy erupted on the battlefield, signifying the end of this phase of the fight. The scene opens in a beautiful forest, sunlight streaming through the thick canopy of trees, creating a serene atmosphere. Deeper inside the woods, giant, gnarled tree trunks stand tall, with vines wrapping around them, still bathed in the soft, fading sunlight. The forest remains dark and imposing, though rays of light manage to cut through the dense foliage. Hidden among the trees, a small wooden cabin comes into view, suggesting someone is staying in this remote place. On the porch of the cabin, a woman with dark, messy hair sits in a rocking chair, totally focused on a small glowing device in her hands. As she is deeply engrossed in the device, another imposing figure with long white hair suddenly appears behind her. The white-haired man asks the woman what she is doing outside, while she remains focused on her screen. The woman replies casually about the nice weather, enjoying the clear air right then. She hints that it's almost time, while continuing to stare intently at the image on her handheld device. The white-haired man acknowledges her statement, saying they have about a year left, and it is time to end something. His expression turns serious and focused as he looks away. The woman remarks that the man always gets distracted like this when things get serious, then asks what he is so absorbed in looking at. She shows him the screen, explaining that the person on it calls himself Narukami Subaru. The white-haired man reacts strongly, shouting out the name Subaru twice, clearly shocked. The woman quickly clarifies that it is not the Subaru they know, but someone else using Narukami Subaru's name while taking the floor 2 trial right now. The view shifts to a dramatic battle where someone wearing a mask is dominating opponents, with game-like notifications popping up, showing incredible movements and a suffix-set comment suggesting the person is a newbie. The woman notes that the white-haired man also knows about this, then suggests that if the real Subaru had survived, someone named Kyojo Etsuki would have been erased from the tower long ago. The woman asks what the man is trying to say, but he harshly states that Subaru is dead and it is time to accept it. As the woman tries to change the subject, the white-haired man confronts her, asking how long she plans to hide in that dead kid's shadow. The woman angrily turns the question back on him, asking why he is watching this in the first place. He simply says he is killing time, making the woman react with shock and outrage. She exclaims that even now the man is still like that, while he gives her an intense stare. He continues to say he is just killing time, as she looks terrified while holding the device. Her eyes widen in horror as she realizes something significant. The man's face hardens as he tells her, "Even now you still showing deep frustration." A tense moment follows as the white-haired man reacts to the screen with a look of dread. He states this is as the focus narrows on his intense expression. The story then cuts to a title card for episode 11, followed by a chaotic display of power as the masked figure fights. The masked figure unleashes a massive golden explosion, seemingly defeating multiple enemies at once. The explosion fades slightly to show several large, menacing, pale-skinned enemies reeling from the impact. The masked figure, surrounded by glowing energy, looks down with dark intent. System messages appear, confirming the acquisition of the skill Thunder, 2,000 achievement points, and offering choices to continue or move floors. The masked figure holds a weapon, surrounded by dark and yellow energy, while viewer comments roll by discussing how the skill was learned and its difficulty. A viewer comment mentions that this is not the intended way to learn the skill, followed by a close-up on the masked character's intense eye. A skill window pops up showing that Thunder is a rank A skill, level 1, which consumes HP and MP and can be leveled up with Thunder fragments. The masked character thinks he is glad to have survived this trial and received 5,000 credits from a donor, just as the trial is declared cleared. More mission clear notifications pop up with credit rewards from different donors, making the masked figure say thank you to everyone. A notification shows his current credits have increased, and the white-haired man's voice is heard, mentioning a thank you performance for tips. The masked figure prepares to fight again as the trial resumes and monsters roar in front of him. Several large, monstrous figures charge forward with menacing expressions. The character declares he will show them that thing, and systems show 20,000 credits have been used to upgrade a skill. The system confirms Wedge of Greed skill level increased, and that it is now resisting the backlash from the Thunder skill. He internally decides he cannot let the power run through his whole body yet, as lightning gathers in his right hand. He stops channeling the full power, choosing to hold back for now, as he faces the charging enemies. Intense action lines suggest a massive clash is about to happen. The character, empowered by red and yellow auras, charges into the group of monsters, striking them down. He prepares a powerful strike, stating it is time to cut loose like in the old days, as the lightning now dwells in his cursed sword. A surge of dark red energy engulfs the character as he unleashes his full might. He thinks it is time to unleash his power, as the red and black energy rips through the area. The attack is devastating, hitting the large-scale enemies with immense force. The area is filled with the overwhelming red and black aura of his power, taking down several foes. More violent streaks of red energy sweep across the scene, showing the intensity of the attack. The monsters are being scattered and thrown around by the powerful red energy wave. A glowing shadow suggests the fading power of his attack. The masked character stands, emanating a strong red aura, holding his newly empowered sword, and curses softly. He admits he misjudged the situation, as he was supposed to save some strength for later. The scene flashes back to the aftermath where the monsters are lying defeated and the character is breathing heavily, holding his sword. He sighs, thinking he misjudged the situation, as the scene shifts to a group of armored knights approaching. A group of knights, looking surprised and concerned, rushes onto the battlefield. The leading knight shouts in shock at the sight before him. The lead knight yells out, "Be benefactor," as he sees someone being thrown back by the force of the previous explosion. The benefactor is seen tumbling away, while the masked character stands firm amid the wreckage. The masked figure catches his breath, holding his dark sword, letting out a sigh. The lead knight catches up, looking frantic, calling the character an idiot. The knight explains that the benefactor really came all this way, as he focuses intensely on the character. A sudden, jarring sound effect fills the space. The scene shifts back to the interior, where someone is looking down at a phone with an unreadable expression. Two well-dressed men stand in a room, one large and one slender, while the person looking at the phone remains obscured. A woman in dark robes sits distressed, clutching her head, as the larger man asks if going this far was really worth it. The slender man replies dismissively that he does not understand women's feelings, while the distressed woman sinks further into despair. The woman in robes thinks to herself that things are bad and wonders what she should do next. She worries that her message might have seemed too cold or purely businesslike, regretting not adding more feeling to it. She apologizes internally, thinking her message was just businesslike. The slender man questions the distressed woman if she is actually in love with the streamer, pointing out her initial desire to be his manager. She passionately defends herself, shouting that she is a hardcore fan before she is his manager. She continues addressing the chief, grabbing at her clothes with intensity. She emphasizes that the Thunder skill, which only Narukami Subaru ever obtained, now belongs to Narukami Subaris in the plural. The slender man breathes a sigh of relief, saying at least they managed to keep their salaries somehow. The large man nods, stating that it makes sense why no one else ever learned that skill, and that the streamer is someone to watch. The slender man calls out to the chief, while the ecstatic woman jumps up and down holding her phone. The woman is overjoyed, exclaiming that it looks like Narukami Subaru read their email. Her joy immediately turns to shock as she realizes he left the message on read. Back in the room with the managers, one of them realizes the streamer read their email but didn't reply, and a ghostly figure appears, perhaps reacting to the news, as another manager states, he died on his feet. Alright then, the scene opens with a view of different players lined up in what looks like glass compartments, ready for something. The focus shifts to a streamer setting, where someone is getting ready to begin a broadcast. This streamer is known for being very sharp when analyzing player combat, using smart insights to beat many rivals and stay on top. This famous analyst, called Hawkeye, has looked at many player videos, even one of Kirikawa Ammon who recently joined the Blue Zone. People are saying a new dark horse has shown up, climbing the tower super fast, and some even compare him to the legendary Narukami Subaru, asking if it is time for Hawkeye's analysis. Even Kyojo Itsuki, once part of the old Blue Eyes group, is mentioned, and now he is a player carrying the pressure of representing the whole Earth. Today, the focus will be on Itsuki's skills, but they also must talk about the huge legend, Narukami Subaru, who is still the one everyone thinks about. When people think of a player who leaves everyone else behind, right now, that man is Narukami Subaru, and the stream is going live to discuss him. Hawkeye greets everyone and says they are going to focus on the hottest player right now, Narukami Subaru. Chat is already buzzing with questions about Subaru, with some doubting if it is too early to hype a player still on floor 2, and others wondering if there are multiple people with that name. The chat gets messy with users calling Hawkeye old news or a salary thief, but Hawkeye tells everyone to stop putting the player down right away. As the action footage plays, the reactions in the chat show people calling the player a man of talent and questioning if this is what a newbie looks like, with one saying he is on a completely different level from normal copycats. Hawkeye is stunned, asking what kind of focus this player has, because he is using a skill he just learned perfectly, not wasting a single bit of power. The chat users are amazed, saying that the fine control, technique, and judgment this player shows are crazy, while others are confused about the specific terms being used. Despite some confusion in the chat, the narrator emphasizes that the player has not made a single mistake in the whole fight, calling it godlike precision. Hawkeye notes that less than half the chat truly understands what they are witnessing and declares that this guy will definitely become a big name, promising to keep watching him. The chat starts reacting to funny comments about the player's gear, but then someone asks if there will be a final recap, reminding everyone of Hawkeye's famous one-line summary. Hawkeye pauses, remembering the final thoughts, and says that in terms of control alone, this player might already be better than Narukami Subaru in his prime. The screen goes dark, showing a close-up of an intense eye, building up the impact of Hawkeye's final comment. The chapter title card appears, marking the end of the analysis segment, with episode 12 starting right after. The scene abruptly shifts as Subaru waking up with a shock in his room. Subaru wakes up gasping, with system messages indicating that stage 6 is on standby and his fatigue is fully recovered. The system asks if he wants to pause the trial, showing that he successfully cleared the previous stage. The narrator explains the two conditions for pausing a trial: clearing the previous stage, the next stage not starting, and full fatigue recovery. Subaru feels mentally tired even though his physical fatigue is 0, so he decides to put the trial on hold for a while. He ends his stream, and the chat reacts with typical sign-offs, with one user pointing out that the viewer count reached 742, which seems surprisingly high. Subaru apologizes to his viewers and announces a one-day break, meaning the next stream will be the day after tomorrow, before the system confirms the live stream has ended. A bright light engulfs Subaru as he is transported from the stream room. The light continues to flash as he moves out of the broadcast environment. Subaru appears in the trial waiting room, looking small and thoughtful next to a large portal structure. He checks his phone, noticing a message notification while looking at the portal, which makes him react with surprise. The message is an official invitation from Southern Entertainment, a major multi-channel network, praising his time and offering full support and top industry revenue rates. Subaru reads the message, confused, murmuring the name Southern Entertainment. He seems shocked as he looks closer at the glowing screen in his hand. The scene changes to a bright, sunny day outside a quaint European-style building labeled cafe. Inside the cafe, Subaru is sitting down, looking at his phone, while the next segment describes Southern Entertainment as a major, rapidly growing network aggressively supporting streamers. Subaru thinks about how much the world has changed to have such big management companies, realizing Southern is one of the leading MCNs in entertainment. The chat comments are displayed again, mentioning Hawkeye being affiliated with Southern and praising Subaru's control, with some defending Hawkeye's analysis against critics. Subaru reads that Hawkeye is also with Southern and thinks about the blunt, no-filter commentator. He admits to himself that even if the chat is a mess, Hawkeye's eye for talent is pretty good, acknowledging the high praise about surpassing the prime Narukami Subaru in control. Subaru gets up, leaving the cafe with heavy footsteps echoing. He walks away, and a man in a fancy black coat, likely Itsuki, looks at his phone, rereading Hawkeye's strong praise about Subaru's control being superior to the prime Narukami Subaru. Itsuki scoffs, angrily stating, "Don't screw with me," pointing out that Subaru is just a rookie barely on floor 2. Itsuki gets very angry, red eyes blazing, calling Hawkeye a joke and threatening to gouge his own eyes out if Subaru proves him wrong. He stomps his foot in frustration, the sheer force making a mark on the ground. Itsuki storms out of the building, grumbling that this is a terrible way to start the morning. He smirks a sinister smile, clearly agitated. Looking into the cafe, Itsuki sees Subaru still sitting there, muttering, "Everywhere I look, it's Subaru, Subaru, Subaru." Itsuki approaches Subaru's table, looming over him. In a sudden move, Itsuki knocks Subaru's coffee cup over, splashing hot liquid everywhere. Subaru jumps up, yelling about the heat, while Itsuki seemed shocked by his own quick action or Subaru's sudden movement. Subaru, surprised, questions Itsuki, who then recognizes him. Itsuki says he has been running into Subaru a lot lately and points out that floor 2 is small. Subaru just stares back coldly as Itsuki looms over him. Itsuki offers to buy him a new coffee, mockingly saying Subaru should be grateful since he is always broke. The two stand back to back for a moment, radiating intensity. Itsuki's eye turns red with rage, and he suddenly grabs Subaru. Subaru calmly tells Itsuki that he is pretty sure he warned him last time. He directly challenges Itsuki, asking if he lost his mind. Itsuki calls Subaru a little punk and menacingly tells him that if he wanted to get punched that badly, he should have said so sooner, claiming that his smug look needs more than just a punch. Itsuki gets aggressive, pushing close to Subaru, and vows to crush him just like in the old days. Subaru simply says sorry and tells Itsuki that he does not have time for this fight. Subaru unexpectedly grabs Itsuki's hand holding his collar, causing Itsuki to grunt in surprise. Itsuki is shocked, wondering if Subaru was always the strong, visibly struggling against Subaru's grip. Subaru lets go, telling Itsuki to consider a payment for the coffee, and walks away, leaving Itsuki sputtering. Itsuki yells in frustration for Subaru to get back here as he rushes out the door. Subaru exits, and the door closes quickly behind him. Itsuki sighs, realizing he was trying to climb the tower quietly this time, but both Subaru and the previous encounter ruined it. Itsuki grits his teeth, filled with rage, calling out the names Narukami Subaru and Hasoi Subaru. He furiously realizes both of them just had to rile him up, and he charges out the door after Subaru. Back outside, Subaru sighs, looking down at his phone again, ignoring the commotion. He calmly examines the edge of his own blade. The scene cuts to a woman relaxing in a bath with a rubber ducky nearby, and then cuts to a close-up of someone sitting by a desk. The final shot shows the woman in the bath, and a message pops up, presumably from Subaru, saying, "Let's meet again soon." The chapter starts with a view inside a dark, water-filled stone structure where light streams down from a grate above, showing defeated lizardmen bodies floating in the murky water. Closer look shows one of the defeated lizardmen bodies, heavily wounded, lying in the water as bright, fiery energy starts to build up from below. This intense energy focuses into the main character's hand holding a sword, and a notification appears, entering the boss room of the dungeon called Exile Lizardman's Hideout. The main character stands firm, holding the glowing, cursed sword, while a system message confirms that the Wedge of Greed skill is resisting the backlash from the nameless cursed sword. He acknowledges that he is slowly getting comfortable with this new body, but he has something he needs to test. The character prepares to launch an attack, with fiery energy erupting downwards toward a monster below. The boss monster, a huge fiery salamander, appears with a roar, confirming its presence in the fight. The salamander roars, and the character thinks about what he needs to do to avoid past mistakes and properly tests his power. He needs to test the absolute limit of the power of thunder so that accidents like before do not happen again. Focusing the thunder energy in his legs, he leaps upward toward the salamander, ready to unleash his full potential. A system message confirms that the thunder energy has successfully gathered in his legs, preparing for a massive jump or strike. The character, now a blur of motion, attacks the fiery salamander boss with great speed. A shadowy presence, perhaps a manifestation of his power or a co-pilot, overlays the main character's determined face as they charge through the fire. The salamander opens its giant mouth, letting out another loud shriek as the attack continues. The character strikes through the flames, his cursed sword glowing intensely. The system confirms that the thunder power is now residing within the nameless cursed sword, preparing for a powerful strike. As the character charges through the immense fire, the system notes that the Wedge of Desire skill is resisting the backlash from the thunder power. Because he failed to resist the backlash, the skill level of Thunder is rising rapidly as he slams into the monster. The shadowy presence overlays him again, surrounded by golden energy, showing the intense power being channeled during the attack. The attack connects, and the fire-covered salamander recoils from the impact. With the boss defeated, a notification flashes across the screen confirming that the dungeon-exiled lizardman's hideout has been cleared. Following the clear, system messages pop up announcing a level up, with increases of +1 to strength, vitality, and magic. The title card for episode 13 appears, followed by a serene, misty forest scene as the chapter transitions. The main character walks down stone stairs into a dark, quiet forest illuminated by strange blue light emanating from the trees. He reflects on the fight, noting that the stamina drain reduction was better than expected, and fatigue is still low, giving him room to push his limits. He decides he can safely push the output higher, and a status window for his skill Wedge of Desire is displayed, showing its rank, category, and high credit cost to level up. He complains internally about the high credit cost for leveling up and wishes for an easy job offer to appear out of nowhere. Suddenly, another character appears, noticing him and asking if he was out hunting. The scene focuses on the intense gaze of the main character. The main character looks up to see a dark silhouette standing a distance away in the moonlit forest. The approaching figure asks if the main character is going hunting, making a distinct sound effect as he steps forward. A close-up on the approaching man's hand shows a hint of refined appearance, and a large speech bubble begins to form with a dark, ominous tone. The approaching man, with a sinister grin and red eyes, speaks about how they have known each other a long time, which still surprises him. The main character calls the other man a persistent guy, while the grinning man claims he thought things through but got too angry to hold back. The grinning man then suggests they should call it quits between them. The two men stand facing each other on the rough ground, and the grinning man firmly suggests ending whatever connection they have. The two characters stare each other down, revealing their contrasting styles and expressions. The main character simply responds with a disbelieving heck to the proposition. The scene abruptly shifts to a city skyline at night, showing tall buildings, a flying ship, and a man standing on a rooftop in the distance. A man with bright blonde hair and a distinctive jacket, possibly a streamer, stands near a brightly lit doorway. A large, rugged hand reaches out toward the blonde-haired man, saying, "Found you." The scene transitions to a meeting indoors where the older, smartly dressed man from before greets the blonde-haired streamer with "Yo, long time no see." The blonde streamer answers that his streaming is just so-so, and the older man comments that a slow build-up is healthier. Blonde streamer gets impatient and demands the other man get to the point, while the older man compliments his sharp Hawkeye eyes. The older man brings up Narukami Subaru, the person the streamer reviewed the day before, and asks if he meant what he said. The streamer, taking a sip from his cup, confirms his review, stating that based on raw talent alone, he thinks the rookie is better than Narukami Subaru in his prime. The streamer adds that whether the rookie can reach that high level is a different story, and the older man confirms he understands his assessment. The older man asks why he is inquiring and reveals he is thinking of scouting the rookie to his agency. The blonde streamer expresses surprise, noting the rookie's viewer count is too low for scouting and his name recognition is still very small. The older man admits that point is true but says hearing the streamer's confidence gave him the push he needed, proposing that the streamer collaborate with Narukami Subaru to boost his numbers. The streamer agrees that raising the viewer count is their job, and they note that for now, it's just the two of them present. The older man looks intensely at the streamer, confirming that they are the only ones here right now, and the streamer simply agrees with a yeah. The scene flashes back to the forest confrontation, where the older man mocks the main character for wandering into a dungeon cockily, judging by his lack of injuries that he must be fast. He continues to lecture the main character, telling him that's why he told him to stay back, implying he only got this far on luck. The older man aggressively asks if the main character actually thinks he has become Narukami Subaru. He mocks the main character for dreaming of learning thunder like that streamer, calling him Narukami Subaru that bastard. The angry man tells him to just rot quietly if he is dead, stating that every last one of them gets on his nerves. He exclaims that he never imagined they would end up in an era full of fake Narukami Subarus, and then asks the main character one question. The main character asks why the other man hates him so much, wondering if it's just because his name is Subaru. He presses further, asking why the other man hates that name so much when everyone else loves it. Then the other man demands to know if he says that knowing who his father is. The main character, grasping the other man's collar, asks what his father has to do with their conversation. The aggressive man retorts that he is too old to keep bringing up his dad every time something happens. The name Reinhardt is suddenly brought up, along with the title A High Ranker on Floor 9, and One Strike Swordsman. The main character seems shocked, with a tear welling up in his eye as the gravity of the name sinks in. The angry man continues his outburst, screaming about how something unbelievable happened. He explains that Narukami Subaru of Blue Eyes, an Earthborn player, appeared like a comet and defeated the Runeterra ranker Reinhardt with a single strike, all in under 30 seconds. Reinhardt, who is lying defeated on the ground, weakly says, "Wait, I can still fight," as he tries to reach out a hand. The main character looks down at the defeated Reinhardt, who is trapped in a crater caused by the attack, looking utterly defeated. The angry man screams at the main character, "You bastard," and warns him not to say that name so lightly. The main character clarifies, saying the reason the other man hates him is not just because of the one-strike swordsman, but because of his father's title. He asks the angry man if he has any idea how much Hoso Subaru suffered because of that title. The angry man violently shouts, "Shut up, say one more word," and as he unleashes intense firepower, the main character simply replies, "No," standing firm in the flames, ready to face the attack. The scene shows the main character standing unharmed in the midst of the fiery blast, staring down his opponent. The angry man, now fully engulfed in fire, stares back with glowing red eyes fueled by rage. The confrontation intensifies as the angry man prepares to strike with immense fire energy, while the main character remains unfazed. Someone was feeling strong hatred for Narukami Subaru, thinking he was overrated and that his guild members were all fools who went down with him. This enemy believed that Subaru deserved to be rotting in hell for whatever he did. Then, this person turned their attention to the one standing before them, wondering what fate awaited them now. The masked figure stood tall, showing no fear while the enemy was clearly struggling after taking a powerful hit. The enemy coughed, finding the masked person's presence impossible. The masked figure asked the defeated opponent who they thought was standing in front of them, bringing up Subaru, the one they used to bully. The enemy seemed shocked and started coughing up blood. The enemy, clearly confused and hurt, couldn't believe it was the masked streamer. The masked one then questioned if the enemy thought they were the original Narukami Subaru. The masked figure declared that if someone weak, who couldn't even reach their ankles, learned the thunder skill, it meant they were better than the original Blue Eyes Narukami Subaru. The masked person then finished their attack, knocking the enemy down hard. The attacker made a powerful move that caused a huge explosion of fire and force, pushing the defeated enemy back. The strong attack showed overwhelming power. The defeated opponent admitted they misjudged the strength of the person they were fighting. They seemed to regret their actions towards someone who was almost a friend. This person thought about maybe going to kill the masked streamer next, showing their lingering malice. The masked figure then asked about the mention of a mask, making the enemy look closely at them. The enemy looked scared, realizing something was wrong as the masked figure brought their hand up near their face. The masked figure then asked pointedly, "Mask?" The atmosphere grew intense with fire and energy surrounding the masked figure. The enemy watched in disbelief as the masked person moved. The masked figure's eyes glowed intensely in the dark, surrounded by shadows and fire, clearly indicating a transformation or revelation. The enemy was completely stunned. The masked person asked the enemy if they meant this with a rhetorical question in the darkness. The enemy was clearly reeling from the confrontation. The enemy shouted in disbelief as they seemed to be sent flying or thrown away by a massive burst of energy. They were utterly shocked by what was happening. The defeated person questioned how the masked one could take their flames head-on, clearly in pain and confused. They realized something was terribly wrong with their assessment of the opponent. The opponent admitted it doesn't feel good after the exchange, realizing they were beaten. The masked figure then delivered another sharp blow to the ground near them. The masked figure moved in close, delivering a powerful punch, clearly intending to finish the fight. The original enemy was overpowered by the masked fighter. The masked figure stepped back, having clearly won the physical fight, while the opponent was in shock from the blow they just received. The masked one seemed irritated by the opponent's past behavior. The defeated man struggled to speak, letting out a distress sound as he realized the gravity of the situation. He was in terrible pain. The masked figure stood over the down man, who was bleeding and on his hands and knees. The masked person showed no sympathy for the man who was suffering. The masked figure expressed annoyance at hearing people badmouth those guys, implying protection for people the enemy insulted. The defeated man could only react with disbelief and horror. The enemy weakly asked why the masked person was there, coughing up blood as the masked figure stood over him. The enemy then realized the impossible truth. The enemy stammered that it was impossible, just as the masked figure posed a pop quiz. The scene showed the masked one standing over the severely beaten opponent. The masked figure stood calmly while the other person knelt in defeat, asking who they thought was standing before them now. The masked figure then showed a glimpse of their face under the mask. The masked figure offered 3 possibilities: Hastags Subaru, the masked streamer Narukami Subaru, or the original Narukami Subaru with blue eyes. The true identity was about to be revealed. The masked person slowly began to remove the mask, revealing his true face and confirming he was the original Narukami Subaru of blue eyes. The defeated man's realization was absolute. The defeated man could only weakly say "Cough, don't talk crap" as he finally understood who stood above him. The opponent tried to dismiss the thunder skill, saying it wasn't a big deal and mocking the idea that someone like the current Subaru could learn it. He still thought he was superior. The defeated person insisted that the current Subaru wasn't strong enough to beat him, still relying on his past judgment. He then tried to puff himself up, saying that if a weakling like the old Subaru could learn thunder, it meant something. The masked Subaru, now revealed, stared down with confidence, stating that it meant he was above the old blue eyes Narukami Subaru. The defeated man was speechless, looking at the intense gaze. The revealed Subaru shouted at the defeated man, calling him a bastard, while channeling more power, surrounded by intense golden energy. The opponent was about to face the full extent of Subaru's current power. Subaru prepared another devastating move, focusing his energy, ready to strike down the opponent who had wronged him and his friends. The flames roared around his hand. Subaru delivered a final, decisive blow, slicing through the enemy who was still reeling from the earlier exchange. The defeated opponent was hit hard, and Subaru looked down at him with cold eyes. Subaru declared, "Too bad." Wrong answer as he stood over the fallen enemy. The defeated man was in complete shock, asking what Subaru meant by that. He was clearly in denial and confusion. Subaru questioned if the enemy understood the suffering that Hastags Subaru went through because of all this. He made it clear that disrespecting his friends angered him. Subaru stated that hearing the opponent trash Hastags Subaru and the others just because they were some brats really ticked him off. The masked one stood tall, emanating power. The defeated man could only utter a terrified "and no way" as he processed the reality of who he was facing. He was completely broken. The enemy realized with dawning horror that Subaru was blue eyes, and as Subaru called his name, he delivered a final, brutal strike. Playtime was definitely over. Subaru stood over the defeated enemy, confirming that the match was over. He felt the debt for borrowing this body was paid. Subaru stood on the bloodied ground, his feet firmly planted, having ended the conflict decisively. He finished his task. The masked Subaru, now standing, felt that the service he provided was more than enough payment for using this body. Somewhere else, people were discussing his past actions. Subaru looked down at the body of his defeated foe, thinking that the use of the body was now settled. The scene transitioned away from the battlefield. The scene shifts to a calmer, indoor setting where 2 people are talking over food. One person questioned what that guy was doing earlier, calling him some Narukami Subaru fanboy, while the other expressed embarrassment at his behavior. They were discussing the events that just happened, unaware of the true identity of the person they were seeing. Someone noted that the masked person seemed to be streaming, and then it was pointed out that streamer Narukami Subaru always kept his real face hidden as a policy. The masked figure was seen interacting with his phone. It was stated that hiding one's appearance from opponents gave a big advantage in fights. The masked figure was focused on his device. A woman suddenly appeared, apologizing for making them wait, announcing herself as the prospective manager, Hatsuka. The masked figure paused, looking up at her arrival. Hatsuka, flustered and blushing, introduced herself as the prospective manager, finding it an honor to finally meet him. She was clearly overwhelmed by meeting the masked streamer. Hatsuka continued to express her excitement and nervousness about meeting the streamer. She looked completely starstruck. Hatsuka and the masked figure shook hands. She told him it was an honor to finally meet him, reinforcing her excitement. Hatsuka commented that he really looked just like the original Narukami Subaru. She then wondered what would happen if the real Subaru had actually survived and returned, hiding his face with a mask. The masked figure remained silent as Hatsuka continued her thought about the original Subaru returning and hiding his face. The streamer looked impassive behind the mask. Hatsuko quickly recovered from her musings, asking if something was wrong, suddenly getting anxious about seeming unreliable in this first meeting. She needed to gain his trust immediately. An unseen person's voice reminded Hatsuko that winning the client's trust in the first meeting is critical, urging her not to look unreliable. This was likely advice from a superior. Hatsuko felt like she totally messed up right at the start. The masked figure simply looked at her, surrounded by a tense purple aura. Hatsuko let out a loud gasp, finally getting her composure back, and asked the masked man if he was a fan of the original Narukami Subaru. She was trying to connect with him. The masked figure confirmed he was a die-hard fan of the original Subaru, but quickly assured Hatsuko not to worry since he was not the real one and was likely younger than her. Hatsuko accepted that he might be younger, but she emphasized that she was a fan of him too. She was determined to support him. Hatsuko explained excitedly that she had been watching since his job hunt stream and might even be his very first viewer. She detailed all the impressive moments she remembered from his early streams, showing deep knowledge. The masked figure, slightly surprised by how much she remembered, asked if she was sure she was just his first viewer, noting she recalled things better than he did. He mentioned it felt strange knowing she watched him when he was still rough. Hatsuko, beaming, said it was strange, but that's why she thought it was fate. She was thrilled about their connection. Hatsuko continued, explaining how she begged the company to be assigned as his manager specifically. She resolved to act like a pro from then on to earn his trust. Hatsuko smiled professionally, confirming the contract was ready and that she would go over the key points since he was busy. She got down to business. She listed things like commercials, event streams, and highlight clips, saying the company would help maximize the value of the Narukami Subaru brand. Her hand slapped down on the papers to emphasize the point. The masked Subaru asked simply what he needed to do. He leaned in slightly, waiting for the instructions from his manager. Hatsuko told him he just needed to keep streaming as he had been. Subaru then wondered if all streamers got spoiled like this, to which Hatsuko replied that he was the first one to ever learn Thunder. Hatsuko added that not just the department head, but the entire company rated him very highly. She urged him for one last push, perhaps to sign the contract. Subaru asked if all Southern managers were like her, while Hatsuko looked shocked and flustered, denying it and saying others were more professional, though she claimed she was too. Hatsuko quickly backtracked, saying she didn't mean it that way, but she could tell from his aura that he wasn't a normal player. She started feeling insecure after her outburst. Subaru inwardly realized that if his manager was this strong, the people he would face next would be even tougher. He thought about his rough impression on her. Subaru was determined to keep up the pace, knowing he couldn't rest. He worried if he left too unreliable an impression and if she might turn down the offer. Hatsuko worried if he would reject the offer and considered forcing the contract through sheer will if necessary. The masked figure then looked at her reassuringly. Subaru told Hatsuko he could tell she was someone he could trust, which made her exclaim "Eep." In surprise and excitement, he extended his hand towards her. Subaru said he was looking forward to working with her as well. Hatsuko was clearly overwhelmed with emotion at his affirmation. Hatsuko responded that it was an honor to work with him too, as she grasped his outstretched hand. The two sealed their professional partnership. Hatsuko was clearly overjoyed and relieved, accepting the handshake with a wide-eyed, happy expression, officially becoming the manager of the masked streamer. The stream goes live, showing the main character with his cool mask and gear. Viewers are already joining, sending greetings and showing support, even though the stream just started. He notices the 700 viewers instantly and thinks it must be because of Hatsuko's promotion. After thanking everyone for making time, he prepares to begin the challenge, holding up his phone. A system notification pops up, announcing that the stage named Legend is about to start. The scene shifts dramatically to a dark, rainy forest outside, with some intense sound effects indicating movement. Heavy rain pours down on the dark trees, setting a tense mood. The camera shows a damaged camp set up in the rain, with a knight standing guard near some supplies. The scene transitions to a group of knights gathered in a tent, looking serious as someone is just entering. One knight asks if their benefactor has arrived yet, while others stand around a table, waiting. Another knight voices his doubt, saying he isn't sure about trusting someone who isn't even a knight. A third person agrees, finding it hard to believe an outsider followed the giant boss, suggesting they might have been tricked unless they saw it themselves. The doubting knight, Peleus, presses further, asking if they are sure it was the real giant chief and not some lesser enemy. The knight who vouched for the benefactor defends him strongly. Just as someone announces the benefactor has woken up, the masked benefactor appears, and the knight asks if he is all right. The benefactor reassures them, saying he can walk fine now, and thanks them for their help. A couple of knights murmur amongst themselves, judging the benefactor, saying he doesn't look strong and his mask looks suspicious. The masked benefactor comments that it sounds like they still don't believe what he did, or maybe they just don't want to accept it. He then explains that by using a saved pose, he can adjust the voice frequency, so only the viewers hear him, as he shows the girl next to him on the phone. He notes that this function is useful in boring situations like this, which earns a comment about him being cheeky. Ignoring the stream comments, the masked man turns to the knights and begins to formally introduce himself, extending his hand. An older knight in full armor introduces himself as Dale. Dale shakes the benefactor's hand and asks if they are meeting for the first time, to which the benefactor replies that he was guarding the village side when everyone was crushed. Dale looks serious, asking for confirmation about being crushed, and the benefactor simply confirms it. Dale then asks if there is something even more dangerous than the boss they just fought. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the benefactor confirms, explaining that the true giants, who once fought the gods, were sealed away. The image shows the scene of the ancient giants being sealed away in a rock-like prison, covered in golden lines. He continues that the giants they see now are just remnants or traces left by those originals. However, the giant that appeared after the boss was different, being much closer to the giants from legend. Dale reacts with shock, realizing they might be dealing with floor 8 tier threats which no one has reached yet, and another voice suggests that if it's that strong, they just have to beat it. The masked man confirms his intention to beat it, standing among the surrounding knights. Someone comments on the benefactor's confidence, saying that even if they are in no position to ask, the plan sounds impossible. Another knight remarks that it's easy to talk confidently when you haven't faced the threat yourself. A knight excitedly calls out to the benefactor, who then yells that there is an old legend passed down. He explains that on the summit of the towering Millennium Mountain, fragments of lightning are said to be hidden and only one person can find them. The knight looks determined, emphasizing that only one person can retrieve them. The masked benefactor is shown turning away from the group, ready to move on. The screen displays the title card, Reincarnaed Streamer, Episode 15, against a dark background with intense sound effects. Flashback. A chaotic scene in a burning village as villagers try to flee from two large figures in the firelight. The two giant figures, looking monstrous, are shown attacking, causing destruction while small figures run in panic. A powerful, long-haired figure emerges from the glow, seemingly enraged, vowing to deal with the one who hurt his son. The giant figures clash violently amidst bright, intense energy. The knights are shown fighting desperately against the giants, with one crying out to stop. The long-haired giant swears he will make the enemy rest with human blood as he raises his hand. A close-up shows a devastating blow, causing blood to splatter everywhere. The long-haired giant's face is shown menacingly covered in blood, ready to strike again. A streak of blood drips down into darkness, accompanied by sharp sound effects. The benefactor's eye reflects the destruction below, and he speaks of that thing, referencing the powerful giant. He is on horseback, looking over the ruined village, and the viewers comment that the thing he fought was that guy's son, and it was way too big. The viewers identify the massive foe as the one-eyed guardian, realizing it's a real giant trying to kill them all in this trial. The knight tells the benefactor that the giants will take about 3 days to reach their location, and he insists the benefactor runs if he hasn't found the thunder by then. The knight emphasizes that running is the only way to guarantee the benefactor's safety, and the scene focuses on a tall, sharp peak labeled Millennium Mountain. The benefactor rides toward the massive mountain, as the knight explains that lightning is essential to slay a giant. The benefactor realizes that acquiring the lightning might be the key to the entire trial, and he hears a viewer mention retry, noting the minimum of 2 attempts required. He ignores the comments, confidently thinking that there is no trial in this tower he cannot clear, though he immediately realizes his overly confident catchphrase just slipped out after 20 years. He shakes off the awkwardness as he rides hard, while viewers in the stream mention finding his old catchphrase familiar. Viewers start posting missions, offering credits for killing the threat, showing community engagement even in this dangerous place. A close-up shows the streamer gripping the reins of his horse tightly in the pouring rain. The masked streamer urges his horse forward up the steep terrain of the mountain. Dismounting from his horse at the base of the massive mountain, the benefactor confirms that the lightning fragment must be hidden here. The enormous, jagged face of Millennium Mountain looms over him in the heavy rain. He stands small next to his horse, facing the colossal rock formation. He touches the rock face, sensing something, while remaining quiet. The knight explains that lightning fragments are only mentioned in legends, and in reality, no one truly knows if they are a special power, an item, or a person. The benefactor asks if Dale knows how to obtain it, but Dale admits they only know the mountain's location from legend. Dale insists that one thing is certain: someone who wielded lightning once annihilated the giants. The benefactor asks how that person managed it, as Dale is shown holding a signed contract, a serious look on his face. One of Hatsuka's assistants is ecstatic, shouting that the contract is signed and showing excitement. Hatsuka, back in her office, is thrilled about the contract being signed and Dale's praise for her professionalism. She celebrates becoming a full-fledged professional, but then questions if Dale's praise was actually a compliment, while another version of her looks on. Hatsuka is overjoyed by the compliment and mentions she met with Hawkeye earlier. She tells her shocked self that Hawkeye has something important to discuss with her soon, then says her work is done. Hatsuka flops onto her bed, stretching happily, ready to watch the stream. She gets close to her phone, smiling, realizing the excitement of seeing him both on screen and in person. She thinks to herself, this is the peak otaku experience, and then recalls the streamer's bold line, in this tower, there is no trial I can't clear. Hatsuka's wide, emotional eyes show she is deeply affected by his words. She is startled, looking down at her phone with a confused expression. She realizes that the streamer's line about clearing any trial sounded exactly like something she hadn't heard in over 20 years, and a tear escapes her eye. Back at Millennium Mountain, intense weather rages with thunder and lightning flashes around the peak. The benefactor, enveloped in yellow lightning energy, confronts the mountain with intense focus. Viewers in the stream make lighthearted comments, including one about the streamer still being ripped, which he quickly denies, saying anyone mentioned that. He stomps down on the ground, causing cracks, and then declares he wants to see which is tougher, promising to go all out. A dynamic shot shows him winding up with immense energy surrounding his fist. He unleashes a powerful strike that completely shatters the rock in front of him in a blinding explosion of light and debris. The focus pulls away from the massive impact, leaving only falling fragments. He lands firmly on the newly broken ground in the rain, stating, "Found you." The camera zooms in on the benefactor's face, his eyes glowing with intense golden power as he grits his teeth, ready for the next fight. Someone calls the main character a brat and asks what they will do next, but the character replies that calling his style brain dead is not okay. He then mentions that it's natural for people to wonder, but they cannot truly feel the power through a stream. The character feels a huge lightning power strongly pulling his own lightning from beyond a big door. The source of this pull is a massive, ancient-looking door, probably built by giants. The hero is standing before this huge obstacle, seemingly ready for action. His companions chat about how to open the giant door since there is no key, suggesting he should use his specialty. Hero is shown near the door, and then his hand touches the cold stone surface, generating a spark. He realizes there is a very easy hint after touching the door with his hand. The hint suggests that he needs to generate thunder, and his wedge of greed LV.3 is resisting the thunder's backlash. He understands that the real trial must be inside this massive structure. He calls out to thunder, relying on it, while others outside wonder if he is seriously trying to break the door down. The lightning power inside him glows fiercely as he feels the strong call from within, deciding to answer it. He charges up, surrounded by golden lightning energy, preparing for a big move. With full intent, he decides he might as well answer the call and puts all his power into breaking the door. A massive burst of golden energy smashes into the door, causing it to crack and light to shine through. The golden energy seems to swirl around him as he exerts himself. The hero flies through the newly opened path, entering the passage. Outside, the scene shows massive rock formations breaking apart, and inside the opening, a bright blue pillar of light appears. He stands firm in the bright light, ready for what is next, as the system warns that he cannot leave until the stage is cleared. Focusing on the masked hero, who is standing confidently in the glowing passage, he walks deeper into the dark passage, leaving the light behind. As he enters, a system notification confirms he is entering the path walked by thunder, and an imposing stone statue is visible. Another system notification appears, stating that he cannot leave until the stage is cleared. This crop is blank, setting up the next change of scene. The scene shifts to a group of armored soldiers standing outside, looking tense, and then gathered around a glowing object on a table. One soldier addresses another named Peleus, asking if he really believes the outsider can get thunder. Peleus, taking a drink, confidently states that he is sure the hero can obtain it. The first soldier questions why Peleus trusts an outsider so much. Peleus insists that the hero has already proven his strength, leaving no room for doubt. The doubtful soldier shouts that thunder won't change anything and they are doomed to die anyway. Peleus counters that the other doesn't understand the giant's capability, realizing the gravity of the situation. The fearful soldier looks terrified, having learned hard lessons about power in a village. Peleus tries to rally the fearful one, saying they cannot give up. Peleus urges putting faith in the young hero who is helping them without asking for anything back, putting a reassuring hand on the other's shoulder. Fearful soldier cries out that it is easy for Peleus to say. The group, including Peleus and the older, mustachioed man, looks determined as some urgent news seems to have arrived. A quick look at spilled drinks and a map on a table suggests the urgency of their meeting. A soldier bursts in, announcing bad news, and that it's here. The main focus shifts to the intense reactions of the surrounding group. The faces of the soldiers show shock and fear regarding whatever has arrived. This crop is mostly empty, emphasizing the impending arrival. The camera shows the icy, blue-glowing cavern where the hero is undergoing the trial. The hero looks around the cavern, wondering what exactly he is supposed to do. He walks down the tunnel, and the viewers are told by others that there is seriously nothing to see. Someone notes that thunder is just too fast to see, leading the hero to realize that lightning is just scattered charge in the air before discharge. He concludes that this is not a trial meant to be seen with the eyes, especially given the name path walked by thunder. He confirms it is not a visual test for him to pass. The hero recognizes the powerful lightning presence calling him from deeper inside and prepares himself. His hand gathers energy as he realizes this trial is testing something else, and he feels the pull even stronger. He looks determined, thinking this trial is probably testing endurance. He pushes against the ice walls, which react to his touch with blue energy. The path is filled with invisible lightning, and he notices that the farther he goes, the stronger the reaction gets. The invisible energy reacts violently to his movements, shown by intense golden and blue energy bursts. Standing at the end of the tunnel, the hero is questioned by the stream viewers about what is happening. He muses that this is the right way, even though he knows he still has to keep moving forward, calling the situation pretty twisted. He identifies the test as endurance and begins moving forward resolutely. The rule is simple. If you can't endure, you die, and the hero grits his teeth, showing exertion. A viewer named Allergy to Everything sends a credit and asks a philosophical question. What are you scared of? More viewers post missions and send large amounts of credits, with one warning him he might lose the thunder he just learned. The hero ignores the chat, powered by the received credits and determined to proceed. He acknowledges the mission rewards silently, his eyes focused ahead. The scene cuts to a dark room where a large pot is boiling over a fire. In a cozy room with a fireplace, a long-haired, white-haired man sits on a couch looking at his phone, until he jumps up in surprise. The white-haired man looks intently at the screen of his device. He jumps up suddenly, clearly startled by something he saw. A dark-haired woman appears, asking why he is hiding what he is watching. She teasingly asks if he was watching something dirty, to which he weakly denies it, claiming his eyes were just tired. The white-haired man tries to cover up by saying quiet types grow hair faster. The woman tells him to stop saying weird stuff, adding that she has been trying not to watch the hero's streams because she gets bored. The woman then asks what the white-haired man is planning to do there, noticing his fidgeting. The white-haired man gets defensive, saying he is allowed to relax, but then accepts the situation, saying he will endure it to the end. The woman yells at him for making a big deal out of it. The white-haired man complains about his eardrums from her yelling, but she tells him to relax and not worry about her. He is taken aback because she usually doesn't listen to anyone, calling him a weirdo. The woman calls him a weirdo, and he is momentarily speechless. The woman asks where he is going and invites him to stay, eat, and rest. The woman gets up to leave, clearly annoyed by the white-haired man's behavior. The white-haired man watches her leave, realizing he almost got caught watching the stream. He is worried about the fuss she will make if she finds out he is watching the hero's streams. He thinks that even if their positions were reversed, the person named Subaru wouldn't forget about them. He recalls the trial's rule: if you can't endure, you die, while looking at the stream of the hero enduring the lightning. He notes that the hero's talk and personality are just like Subaru's, but scrambling so hard for credits is not like him. He wonders aloud what the streaming hero really is, as his actions don't quite match his expectations of Subaru. The woman returns and touches the white-haired man, asking what he is more like. She confronts him, asking if he thinks she wouldn't notice his behavior, stating he is too early to try fooling her, implying he is older than he looks. The woman's eyes widen in shock as she realizes the truth of his statement, feeling the pressure of her secret being exposed. The system commanded to open the path of thunder, and a man's face showed he was crying, yet he seemed to be smiling a bit. He stood there, fully masked with golden accents on his gear, his sword strapped to his back, in a snowy or icy environment. Then he took a step forward, and yellow lightning crackled around his boots as he started to move. He unleashed a huge burst of yellow energy, maybe preparing for a big action or enduring something intense. The energy flared up as he planted his feet, and a progress bar showed it had reached 2.30%. His hand was surrounded by the same golden lightning, and he felt a familiar sensation coming back to him. The masked man felt this feeling, recalling that he had handled lightning many more times than anyone could count. The progress continued to climb, reaching 3.20% now, showing the process was ongoing. He acknowledged that the road ahead was long, but thinking about what was next made him pause. But he also thought it was kind of nice that the goal was shown to him clearly, and the progress indicator moved to 5.1%. People in the chat were confused, asking why he wasn't running or why he didn't just sprint to the end. He knew that from this point on, reading the chat might be difficult, and some viewers warned him that the damage looked serious, urging him to speed up. He thought about reaching the goal, which was guaranteed, but he secretly wanted something more than just finishing. The character gripped his hand, surrounded by the intense yellow electrical energy. This was episode 17 of Reincarnaed Streamer, showing the title card. The scene then shifted to two people looking at a screen. One was the masked streamer, and the other was someone else in a dark room. A different person, looking very casual in a robe-like jacket, sat slumped in a gaming chair, looking thoughtful. A man with blonde hair and scars on his face suggested a collaboration with Narukami Subaru, asking when John last handled content himself. He sternly reminded the other person how many times he had warned them, suggesting that in the business side of streaming, one person could only do half the job. The man holding a mug said that when it comes to the business side of streaming, one person can only do half the work. They sat across from each other at a table, discussing strategy, as the casual-looking one replied he knew what was important. The casual streamer admitted he knew who was being evaluated in this situation. The blonde man agreed, stating that popularity is decided by which players are popular in that era, and he smiled confidently. He explained that Narukami Subaru's streams were less like chatting with fans and more like a seasoned player's vlog, suggesting they should just let him stream as a spectator style like usual, calling it a big chance. He leaned in and suggested they hitch a ride on Subaru's rising popularity. The casual streamer looked determined, clenching his fist, determined to become a star that could rise alongside him. A close-up showed his determined face, focusing on his golden eyes. He then reflected, asking if it was because he didn't trust himself to climb the tower alone. He suddenly flashed a wide, almost manic grin and declared that he wanted that success more than anyone else. His eye color shifted to a glowing purple as the background turned into a starry night sky, showing his desire to be a star. He was seen in his gaming chair against the vast cosmos, reaching out a dark-nailed hand towards a bright distant star. He wondered if he could really become like those stars, but then snapped back to reality with a frustrated grunt and a flail. He exclaimed "Whoa!" as he realized he was supposed to be working, questioning what he was doing, lost in thought. He saw something on his screen and reacted with a shocked gasp, realizing the severity of the situation. He shouted in horror, thinking the other person must be insane, and then let out a pained groan as static filled the screen, indicating the stream was live. The scene dissolved into static and then showed yellow lightning erupting from the ground. The masked figure was seen enduring the intense electrical flow, letting out a pain sound. Close-ups showed his face and body covered in blood and cuts from the lightning. He choked out a painful sound as the lightning continued to rage around him. A dark silhouette crackling with power clenched his fist, showing extreme exertion. He struck down hard, the force of the impact creating a huge yellow explosion that sent two dark red pieces flying. A close-up of his face showed blood dripping from his mouth and cuts, yet he was pushing through the pain. He thought that the stronger the lightning, the deeper it goes into the body, but declared that this level of pain should be enough for now. He stood enveloped in yellow lightning, seemingly having reached some threshold. The system announced that lightning had begun to flow through the central meridians and every tiny channel in his body, highlighting his heart glowing with energy. The progress bar jumped significantly to 20.7%. The system further updated that fine vein cleansing in progress. Then came the notification, thunder now dwells within your body. Magic +1, and he resolved to grab this power, no matter what. The system explained that the two central meridians are the front and back channels running along the body's center. It further detailed that fine veins are the tiny vessels connecting everywhere, and fine veins have opened means the inner power has reached every last corner of the body. This meant that the inner power had reached every corner of his body, with a status box confirming the cleansing was happening. The character noted that Hastags Super skipped the purification of those fine veins, so he was taking a shortcut. A status ailment popped up, shock has begun, and he knew that normally one would barely be able to sit up, let alone be conscious while doing this, as relying on lightning made it easier, but the pain was indescribable. Despite the aid of lightning, the pain was awful as the cleansing process continued. The internal damage manifested as dark specks being violently ejected from his body. He was seen falling slightly from the intense energy flow back onto the icy ground. His foot hit the ground hard, creating a burst of dark red liquid splatter, showing severe internal trauma. The view switched to a woman resting in bed, looking at a device with clothes hanging on a rack nearby. She looked stressed, groaning slightly as she looked closely at a screen displaying the image of the masked streamer in the middle of his ordeal. She realized with horror that he was opening his fine veins, and he was doing it while moving his body. She watched him struggle, enveloped in energy, while moving his body. She understood he was using an external force, not his own magic, and the pain must be unbelievable. She thought that normally someone would pass out immediately, but even if dying in a trial doesn't carry over to reality, the pain felt just as real. She winced as she saw the blood, wondering why he was going this far. She touched her face, questioning his extreme actions. She looked distressed, wondering why he would push himself so hard. Back to the streamer, the progress jumped to 50.3%, and the fine vein cleansing was still in progress. System confirmed, thunder now dwells within your body. Magic +1, but the streamer internally blamed himself, thinking, this is all my fault. He felt that because of him, they might as well have been killed. He recalled something he always said, there is no trial he can't clear. The scene flashed to a group of people in the snow, looking up at another man holding a device, while the first man stood confidently above them. The man looking down at the group smiled reassuringly, saying, don't worry. He confidently proclaimed, I'm the one who wins in the end, as a group of strong-looking people stood behind him, smiling menacingly. A close-up of a cold-looking woman with long white hair showed a tense feeling, as the streamer beneath them thought, if only I. The streamer was consumed by guilt, thinking, if only I hadn't said something so careless. He regretted that his overconfidence had pushed his companions onto this path. The image shifted to a figure with glowing red eyes crying blood, suggesting the dire consequences as the thought concluded, none of us would have had to die. Another character with glowing orange eyes smiled cruelly, saying, seriously, and held a bloody knife. This character sneered, stating, you guys are too full of yourselves, that's your problem. The masked streamer was shown again, being overwhelmed by yellow lightning, thinking, it's all. He finished the thought, all my fault, while standing in a ruined, bloody, icy landscape. The camera zoomed out to show him standing alone amidst the devastation. A close-up showed the streamer's face, bloodied and exhausted, lying low. He weakly extended a lightning-charged hand onto the ground, the effort immense. The man suddenly finds himself under a bright blue sky with clouds, feeling like he woke up from something intense. He stands up on a grassy hillside, looking around at the bright, sunny landscape, perhaps wondering where he is now. He looks down at himself, confused, and whispers, where is this with wide, blue eyes? His gaze shifts to a small group of people sitting around a campfire under a large tree in the distance. He seems to recognize them as he steps forward. A close-up shows his face, now hardened with a grim expression, suggesting he is quickly processing a difficult reality. He recognizes the people by name, calling out you guys, focusing on the figures around the fire, whispering names like Shuhei Soya. He continues to name more people he sees, Kiori and even Shiger and Riane, realizing his entire old team is there. He sinks down into the dark grass, shaking his head as the horrific images return, wondering if the terrible experience was just a dream. He seems to be caught in a vortex of dark energy as the feeling of being pulled under intensifies. He looks up, seeing two of his companions, and says with disbelief, of course, that has to be it, right? A sinister smile appears on his face, quickly replaced by a dark realization where he states, man, what a seriously disgusting nightmare. But another voice tells him to listen. A dark, shadowy figure appears next to him, addressing him by name, Subaru, and accusing him darkly, you really did drive us to our deaths. The scene flashes to horrific, blood-splattered faces of his companions trapped in a vision of red and horror. He screams internally that he didn't want to die, while the voices press on about his failed heroism, and the vision shows his face pale with terror. One of the spectral figures tells him, you said all that big, heroic stuff, and then as they stand under a dark, ominous red sky, a female figure appears distraught, blood dripping from her mouth, asking desperately, "Why didn't you protect us?" While a victim is shown being killed violently, the gruesome vision shows a person being fatally shot in the head, and a close-up of an eye focuses on the main character, who whispers the name Chino. The vision is overwhelmed with violent red energy and sounds of destruction as shadowy figures loom. The main character screams as he is surrounded by the red, spectral forms of his dead comrades in a chaotic scene. Struggling against the vision, he tries to speak. As terrifying, scrawled characters fill the darkness around him. He raises a hand against the swirling red figures and energy, which bear aggressive-looking foreign text, trying to fight off the hallucination. The terrifying visions continue to assault him as he screams, "Wait! And everyone! Don't go!" He clutches out in the terrifying red abyss, begging his friends to stay. Close-up shows his determined, teary eye, still surrounded by the red energy, while his hand reaches out hopelessly into the darkness. He whispers a final, defeated please as the red, shadowy forms swirl around him on the ground. The scene is consumed by intense red energy and blurry shapes, indicating a massive struggle or explosion. Suddenly, a blinding white and blue flash erupts, overwhelming the red, showing a powerful force breaking through. Golden, crackling energy bursts forth, illuminating the scene as he seems to be emerging from the nightmare. He is now kneeling on cracked ground, covered in blood, breathing heavily. Realizing this must be the hallucination that happens during the fine vein opening process, and he almost fell into chi deviation. System notifications pop up, showing the fine vein cleansing is at 97.87% progress, and he has gained a point in magic. He looks up, surrounded by intense golden flames, thinking about the person who set up this awful trial. As he rises, enveloped in golden light, he thanks the unknown benefactor for reminding him why he is still alive. He declares with power, "Thanks for reminding me why I'm still alive," standing tall amidst the golden energy. The scene shifts to show the masked benefactor, glowing with golden light, looking directly at him with a calm expression. The golden light surrounding the masked man is intensely bright, taking up most of the frame. The scene goes dark for a moment, transitioning to a new location. The view shows a dark, stone-built village square at night, where a worried crowd, including villagers and armored guards, has gathered. The crowd is tense, with many people looking scared or shocked by something just out of frame above them. Close-ups show the fearful faces of the villagers, gripping farming tools like they are ready to fight something. A huge, monstrous figure with a terrifying, grinning face appears, glowing with blue energy, causing panic. The people scatter in fear as the monstrous entity looms over them. A detailed look at the monster shows its massive body and an unnerving, wide, toothy smile, glowing with white eyes. The villagers are shocked, exclaiming, "Why, you're kidding? That thing's the real boss?" One person realized the masked man they relied on has vanished, saying, "So the masked guy bailed after all," while another hopes their benefactor will definitely come back. Two armored knights look at each other, one slightly questioning the situation. A determined blonde knight shouts at the doubting villagers, "You entrusted this village's fate to a stranger whose name you don't even know, and then you dare to doubt him." Some villagers nervously backpedal, saying, "We didn't mean," while the knight sternly replies, "Shame on you." The knight continues his lecture, "And you call yourselves knights?" Then agrees with the preceding statement, "You're right," and puts a hand on another knight, stating firmly, "Before blaming anyone else, we should remember that protecting this village is our duty." The older, gray-haired knight and the blonde knight stand together, asserting their commitment while others look on. The older knight draws a sword that crackles with blue energy as the voice states the knight's creed. Knights aren't the ones who get protected, they're the ones who protect. The older knight channels power into a crystal embedded in his armor, ready for battle. He slams his foot down with great force, declaring with passion, "Today, let us die as true knights." The knights charge forward, swords drawn, moving with intense speed toward the fight in the village streets. The motion lines emphasize their rapid advance. A system window pops up showing the progress reaching 99%. The main character, still wreathed in golden energy and bleeding, is focused on the final push. A golden orb of power forms, as the character thinks, no idea what that thing is, but judging by the progress, that has to be the goal. He stands ready, focused on the golden orb, determined to reach the objective. A red system alert warns that his fatigue has risen to 97 and further activity is dangerous as he suffers through the strain. Despite the warning, he pushes forward, thinking, just one more step surrounded by intense yellow energy. Red warning boxes state clearly, "You must recover fatigue. Further activity is dangerous." A close-up shows his foot moving forward, surrounded by golden electricity, ignoring the warnings. The boot stomps down with heavy force onto the ground. The older knight, Serpelius, charges in with blue energy surging around him, fully committed to the fight. He grips his glowing blue sword tightly, preparing to strike. Serpelius lands a powerful, bloody blow against the giant monster. The impact sprays blood as the monster recoils from the strike. The monster roars in pain as the force of the attack registers, while more motion lines emphasize the impact. The sheer force of the monster's suffering is shown. The monster reels back, severely wounded by the knight's attack, while the knight himself is seen in action above. The blonde knight, Serdale, leaps high, sword emitting a powerful blue light, ready to strike the final blow. Serdale shouts, "Leave the rest to me!" As he gathers his strength for the final attack. He stomps the ground powerfully, channeling energy for his next move. Serdale slams into the giant, delivering a massive blow that impacts directly on its head, sending shockwaves. The monster's huge, terrifying form is seen reeling back from the overwhelming attack. The monster screams in agony, while Serdale's attack connects. A close-up shows Serdale's fierce, determined eyes just before the final impact. Serdale lands another powerful blow, roaring grrr as the giant monster starts to break apart. The monster's face contorts in its final moments. The monster screams squaw as Serpelius also attacks the reeling giant, causing massive amount of blood to spray. More debris and blood fly as the giant takes the final hits. The villagers rejoice, one shouting, "We did it," and another adding that Serpelius and Serdale finally brought it down. Some villagers are still aggressive, yelling at the defeated monster to die already. "Just die already!" The knights call the defeated monster a filthy monster, but the focus shifts to Serdale, who is credited with the victory by another knight. "It's all thanks to you, Serdale." The knight goes on to say they can relax now that the most dangerous one is dead. Serdale, however, looks uneasy and replies with a somber no. Serpelius, looking stressed, clarifies, "That's not the one I meant." Another knight dismisses the warning, saying, "Guess it wasn't that big a deal after all," and then credits Serdale and Serpelius for being amazing fighters. He then says they just need to finish off the remaining giants, while the main character's heavily damaged form is shown below. Massive sound effects indicate a powerful, painful action happening to the main character's position. More dramatic sound effects emphasize a sudden break or rupture. The knights look down in shock as a massive shadow looms, and they realize the true threat is still there. One knight exclaims in realization, "That's the one as intense sound effects roar." Serdale looks utterly horrified, screaming, "This one's on a whole different level." The system screen updates the progress to 99.99%, nearing completion for the main character's task. The main character is engulfed in brilliant golden energy, holding a massive sphere of light, having reached a critical point. Wreathed in light and standing over the destroyed ground, he promises revenge. "I'll make you apologize in hell." The progress bar hits 100% complete, and the main character, barely recognizable under his damaged gear, vows to bring his enemy's head as a souvenir to Kyojo. The golden energy pulses violently around him as he prepares for the final move. The ground beneath him cracks and shatters under the immense power being unleashed. A final, massive burst of golden power erupts, showing the character standing firm amidst the destruction, having completed his internal process. He pulls his sword, exhausted but victorious, whispering, "Finally it's over." He looks down, bloodied and breathing heavily, relieved that the ordeal is done. A close-up of his eye shows a slight change in color as the energy fades, with intense sound effects indicating a final shockwave. The system confirms, "Fine vein cleansing complete," followed by system boosts, magic amplification rate increased by 20%. All skill activation speeds increased by 20%, and all stats +2. Even with the victory, he looks down at the ground where the giant fell, thinking to the enemy, "If you had one more hit in you." He finishes the thought, seemingly speaking to the defeated monster's spirit. "You could at least give a guy some warning first." A hand reaches out weakly above the shattered ground, possibly his own, as the environment continues to break apart. The main character is seen lying on the completely shattered surface below, and a final notification declares, "Stage 6, legend cleared."